Over the next few days, Winnie was focused on writing the song. Sometimes when Jeffrey walked past the music classroom, he would see her playing the guitar alone in the studio. Once when he walked by, Winnie stopped him and asked, "Do you want to hear the song?" "Do you want me to give you advice?" Jeffrey asked. He proudly walked and pulled up a chair to sit opposite her. He sat with his legs crossed. "Play then." Winnie closed her eyes and ignored how arrogant he looked. She started playing the guitar. A ray of sunlight fell on her hair as she peacefully sang the song. Her head was lowered and her face was pale and pretty. Her lashes turned golden as they caught the sun's rays. Her lips were moving gracefully as she sang the song with her beautiful voice. The autumn breeze was refreshing. A fallen leaf drifted into the window and fell onto her hair. Her fingers were slender, snow white. She wasn't wearing any accessories, yet those hands were still pretty. Jeffrey gazed at her. His eyes sparkled. On such an afternoon, hearing her singing, while sunlight poured on the floor, Jeffrey felt that his serene heart was plucked along with the strings. It was peaceful and beautiful. Sadly, the second half of the song was incomplete. Winnie couldn't finish the music but raised her head and said to him, "I haven't composed the rest of the song yet." Her cheeks were slightly red. "Do you need to compose the music too?" Jeffrey knocked his lap with his slender fingers while asking the question. He didn't hear Sean mention that. He shouldn't be so hard on the singers. "No, I tried to compose the music since I've written the lyrics," said Winnie with a soft voice. "Even if Director Woods doesn't pick me, I can make some small changes and make it a new song of mine." "You composed the music all alone?" Jeffrey was surprised. He had no experience in the music industry yet, but he knew that composing a song was not easy. Many young singers didn't know how to compose these days. Most of them had teams doing it for them. She created such a beautiful song all by herself, meaning that she was talented indeed. It also meant that as a singer, she was outstanding in many ways. "Yeah," Winnie nodded. "My team makes good music, but I prefer to do it myself. Do you think Sean Woods will like it?" "How am I supposed to know? I'm not him," Jeffrey said. Then he noticed the disappointment in her eyes. "But," he slightly moved his delicate thin lips and continued, "I think some parts of this song are a little too high-pitched. In fact, you don't need to emphasize the treble. It's not what touches people. What's more important is that you want your music to resonate among other people, don't you? I've heard your songs. It's a little hard for some other people to sing those songs. If you made them a little easier to sing, more people will want to sing your songs in karaoke clubs when the movie becomes popular. That will be a new source of income and it'll also help to build your fame." Winnie paused briefly, pondering over his words. He seemed to be right. Earlier, her team had talked to her about that too. "Which part do you think needs to be lower?" Jeffrey walked to her side and bent over to look at her notebook. He pointed at one line of the lyrics and said, "Here. You have such a good memory. I just played it for you, yet you've already memorized it." Winnie responded with surprise. Jeffrey was happy to be complimented by her. People always complimented him, and he normally ignored the compliments. However, it felt nice when those words came out of her mouth. "I'm a director. I surely have a good memory." "Check the lower pitch version then." Winnie picked up the guitar. Jeffrey closed his eyes to feel the music carefully. "It doesn't need to go that low." Winnie adjusted the music again. He was listening while she was trying to perfect the music. More and more classmates walked past the room as class was about to begin. "It's about time for class." Winnie put the guitar down and stood up. Jeffrey glanced at the leaf which was lying on her hair the whole time. Abruptly, he reached a hand toward her hair. "What's wrong?" Winnie raised her head and saw the boy's velvet-like soft hair and eyelashes in the sunlight. His dark eyes sparkled like stars. She could even see her reflection in his eyes. Jeffrey slightly turned and looked straight into her shining eyes. His heart fluttered. Jeffrey's mind blanked for a split second. Winnie was distracted as well until voices of their classmates could be heard in the corridor. "I have to go to class," Jeffrey said as he regained his senses. He kept the leaf in his pocket as he turned to leave the room. When he opened the door, Ella was standing there with a blank face. She looked over at Winnie, who was putting her guitar away. Jeffrey frowned and walked around her without stopping. "Wait, Jeffrey!" Ella ran after him. "Do you like Winnie?"
"I'm just talking to her regarding music."
Jeffrey stopped in his tracks and turned coldly to look at her.
"It's not your business who I like anyway. I already made things clear to you."
"I've never seen you so patient with any other girl," Ella said, recalling what she saw through the window just now. "Is it really because she's April's friend?"
"Why are you so bothersome?"
Jeffrey's temples were throbbing. Luckily, he didn't accept her feelings. She was so controlling even though they weren't a couple. Ella was on the brink of tears. "I just care too much about you."
"There are many women who care about me,"
Jeffrey angrily said.
"Do I have to concern myself with everyone's feelings whenever I interact with someone? Can't I have a friend of the opposite gender? It's none of your business who I date anyway. You should really learn from your sister. How could you be so different even though you're siblings? Don't go spouting nonsense in front of Winnie."
Ella bit her lip hard as she watched him stalk away. She only turned to leave when Jeffrey was out of her sight. She bumped into Winnie, who was just leaving the music room.
"Ella!"
Winnie felt uncomfortable when she saw Ella glaring at her with hatred. Was there another misunderstanding? "Winnie, I dare to admit that I like Jeffrey. But what about you? Is it so difficult to admit it?" Ella asked through gritted teeth. "You're already so popular. Why do you have to come after my Jeffrey?" Winnie was good-tempered, but she was annoyed at Ella. "If you're going to have this kind of attitude, I don't think you will ever win his heart. In fact, you're going to push him further away. Don't blame others for your own failure." She turned to leave. She wrongly assumed that Ella was dating Jeffrey, and she felt bad for that. But she had never misspoken about her, ever. Ella, on the other hand, was always quick to attack her and jump to conclusions. She now sympathized with Jeffrey. She thought that they could at least get to know one another, but this girl was just plain petty and jealous. At 4 p.m., there was a seminar discussion for the performance faculty. They were divided into 4 groups for discussion. Jeffrey was lazily leaning on his chair. His feet were on the table and his eyes closed. He wasn't participating in the discussion. He didn't look interested one bit. Austin nudged him and said,
"Hey, you should at least show that you're participating. We have to write a report on this later." "This is a piece of cake for me,"
Jeffrey said and turned away. Austin was momentarily speechless. He finally said,
"Give me your phone. I want to show everyone the clip that you showed me last time." "Take it yourself,"
Jeffrey said. Austin reached into his pocket. A dried leaf fell out of the pocket.
"Dude, what are you doing with a leaf in your pocket?"
he asked. Jeffrey turned and gave the leaf a careless glance.
Yeah, why was there a leaf in his trousers pockets?
He spent a few seconds thinking, then recalled that he took the leaf from Winnie's hair back in the music studio. He didn't want to throw it on the floor then, so he put it into his pocket.
"Just throw it away."
Austin threw it on the floor. Jeffrey automatically sprung up and swiftly caught the leaf in the air. His agile movement shocked Austin.
"What are you doing? It's only a leaf. It's not a gift from a pretty girl, is it?" "Is it from Winnie?"
Another classmate laughed and jokingly said.
"I heard that you were with her in the music studio at noon. Many people saw you guys." "You're overthinking. I just don't want to throw it on the floor. It's going to the trash can."
Jeffrey sat back down and said with a bland face,
"Nothing's going on between me and Winnie. Don't gossip around. After all, she's a public figure. If the rumor spread, it would be bad for her." "No way. She's so pretty. Are you saying that you have no feelings for her at all?"
Austin tittered.
"If I can spend some time alone with her, I'd be so excited that I might stay up the whole night." "Is she so pretty?" "I don't think so," said Jeffrey. "My sister's pretty, and so is my mom. I look at them every day, so I'm immune to pretty ladies." "That's true. You'll become insensitive to pretty people if your family's all so pretty," said Austin with jealousy. "So what is going on between you and Winnie?" "She asked me for help," Jeffrey answered the question, "because I have great musical talents." "Ew!" Austin pretended to throw up, then said, "That's enough. When have you become so disgustingly narcissistic?" Jeffrey thought for a moment, then replied, "I learned it from my brother-in-law."
He would have never said something like that before. He was probably influenced by Aaron. After all, they had a meal together last weekend.
"Aren't you going to do the discussion yet?" Jeffrey said, reminding the others. The class will end in 10 minutes. Hearing that, the boys instantly started the discussion without saying another word to him. Jeffrey lowered his head and looked at the camphor leaf in his hand. It was yellowing. He put it under his nose to sense a nice aroma from it. His heart flipped a little. At last, he put the leaf in his book. During the next few days, Winnie adjusted the song a few times. On Tuesday night, she finalized it. On Wednesday morning after breakfast, she put the music papers into her bag, put on some light makeup, and prepared to leave. As she opened the door, she saw the door next to hers was opened as well. Jeffrey walked out in a deep blue suit, matched with a white shirt. He looked like someone who was going to a fashion show. "Don't you have class today?" Winnie paused briefly. He was casual most of the time, so today, she felt a little strange seeing him so formal. His cold face gave out a strong vibe. For the next couple of weeks, I'm gonna do some practice on the film side." Jeffrey nodded and said, "The crew needs me today. Are you going to see Sean?" "Yeah." Winnie was a little worried. "Do you think I can make it?" Jeffrey said 4 simple words. "Leave it to fate." Winnie's mouth twitched slightly. No one would encourage people with those words. "Thank you for your help anyway," she said. "Since you want to thank me, buy me an expensive meal if he picks you." Jeffrey smiled. "Sure." Winnie nodded. Anything that could be solved with food would not be a problem. They took the elevator together. Jeffrey went straight to the parking lot to get a sports car, while Winnie got into her nanny van, heading to the audition site. Apart from the singers, some actors and actresses would also be there for the audition. When they arrived at the auditioning company, Winnie was stunned when she saw all the artists in line waiting with their manager. She knew that Sean's work was gaining a lot of attention, but she didn't expect such a huge turnout for the audition. There were plenty of famous actors and actresses there, young and upcoming faces and familiar stars. Winnie didn't know them well, so she picked a corner to sit by herself. Except for the female lead, the male and female supporting role, the rest of the cast is still undecided, Bob said. There are many people here for the auditions. They're happy to even get the small roles in this film because Director Woods is famous for showcasing every character's trait. Some of the younger stars are trying to use this as a stepping stone to go into acting properly. They're willing to do that? Winnie asked. When everyone is willing to lower their expectations, it no longer poses as a problem, Bob replied. Winnie was quiet. There were fewer competitors vying for the theme song of the film. There were only 3 of them, so they entered the lounge to wait their turn. She was the first to go in. She sat down to adjust her guitar. There was the sound of footsteps from outside. When she looked up, a red-haired woman about 30 years old walked in. She was wearing leather pants and had a cigarette in her hand. "Patricia!" Winnie stood up. This was her competitor, Patricia. She was a good singer who had an established career. "I think you should leave while you can." Patricia was wearing 15-inch stilettos. She looked a lot taller than Winnie and didn't look friendly at all. "Did Tara sleep with someone powerful to get you here today? You're so young and new. Do you have the right to compete with me and Maddie?" Winnie frowned. Although Erin helped her a great deal in her career, she mostly owed her success to Tara. "If you were to be compared to Maddie, you're still lacking as well," she said. "Can I assume that your manager slept with someone powerful to get you here today as well?" Winnie said. Patricia's expression changed. She said, "You're really just like your manager, playing dirty tricks. We all know that Tara is supported by someone rich and powerful. How else could she afford to provide such resources to her artist?"
Winnie nodded her head and said, "Your manager must have someone like that as well. Or maybe you do. You're almost the same age as Tara." "You..." Patricia raised her hand. Winnie lifted her cheeks. "You can hit me, but you have to remember that this isn't your company. This is Director Woods' turf. He hates people who bully others with their authority and power. Of course, I hope you do hit me. Then you will be chased out of here and be eliminated as a competitor." "Patricia, calm down," her assistant said as she tugged at her sleeves. "We'll wait and see." Patricia angrily grunted. She walked to the front and sat down. Outside, there were two figures watching them. Sean took a puff of his cigarette and chuckled.
"Winnie is quite interesting,"
he said. Jeffrey smiled. He had never seen this aggressive side of Winnie before. She was always so easy to bully and easily flustered in front of him. He was worried that she might be bullied by Patricia and Maddie because of her lack of experience. It looked like he didn't have to worry about her. At 10 a.m., the audition started. Winnie went into the studio together with Maddie and Patricia. Near the French window was a long table. A group of people were sitting behind the table. Sean was sitting in the middle, and the producer and assistant directors were on the sides. Usually, the three singers would look on the name board on the table when they arrived. But today their eyes were attracted by a young man beside Sean. That young man in a white shirt had deep sunken eyes and a perfect nose. His delicate lips were pressed together into a beautiful arch. His hands were on the table, spinning a pen. Tall windows and blue sky were seen through the window behind him, making him look like an elegant, noble man who came from an oil painting. Winnie's eyes widened in surprise. She couldn't believe the man who was in the elevator with her earlier was now sitting in front of her with Sean and so many other famous people in the film circle. Earlier, he mentioned that he was working on a new film. Was that Sean's film? Why didn't he say a word about it before? Jeffrey raised his eyes and gave Winnie a bland glance, as if he didn't know her at all. She was a little unhappy. However, as she gave it some thought, she realized that it was inappropriate for him to let the others know that he knew her. If he did that, the others might think she pulled strings to get the audition. Sean laughed.
I knew the people wouldn't look at me today, especially the little girls. It's because Jeffrey's sitting here. They'll stare at him." "Totally," the producer smiled and replied. "We middle-aged people are here to make him look even better." Jeffrey raised his head and said, "Shall we start? A lot of people are waiting out there." "You're right."
Sean nodded, then looked at Winnie and the other two singers. Afterward, he said to Maddie,
"Maddie, I'm sorry that I made you come here and compete with the others for this chance."
"I understand. You are always so serious about your films." Maddie smiled generously. Sean nodded and continued.
"I hope all of you understand that if I don't pick you, it's not because you were poor at singing, but because your voice doesn't match our theme song perfectly. You're all good singers. I was going to invite you one by one, but as there are only 3 of you, I asked you come in together. So this competition can be fair. You will be able to learn about each other's work. So now, please hand in the lyrics that you wrote."
Winnie and the other two singers handed in copies of their work. When she handed her copy to Jeffrey, he took it without looking at her. The director and the producer had a short discussion. Afterward, Maddie said, "I have composed music for the song. I hope that you can hear me sing it."
"Oh,"
Sean raised his eyebrows and said,
"Sure."
Maddie sang a part of the unaccompanied song. Winnie was highly impressed. Maddie was an experienced singer. Her voice was deep and the melody was beautiful. As she finished, Winnie saw many people nod and praise her. Sean started the applause.
"Good! Your lyrics are composed of simple words. I'm surprised they sound beautiful when becoming a song."
Jeffrey nodded, then quickly glanced at Winnie.
He said, "Miss Winnie, I see that you brought your guitar. Are you going to perform for us as well?"
Being reminded by him, Winnie hurriedly nodded and said, "Yes, I've composed music as well." John was surprised, while Patricia got anxious. She was the only one who didn't compose music.
"Director Woods, I wasn't required to compose music before. You only asked me to write the lyrics."
Jeffrey coldly twitched his lips and said,
"Miss Patricia, do you often get bad grades in school?"
Patricia didn't get his meaning.
"I guess you were one of those students who only read the materials that the teacher told them to read,"
Jeffrey said.
"When you failed an exam, you'd only blame the teacher for not giving you enough reading materials."
The others immediately understood his sarcastic metaphor. The other directors and producers couldn't help but titter. Patricia's cheeks turned red.
"The task I gave the three of you is the same,"
Sean said with a smile.
"The others made more effort than you did. I gave you an opportunity for fair competition, but the most hard-working ones always win."
Patricia didn't dare argue. She was very upset and aware that she was going to lose. She would have nothing to say if she lost to Maddie, but she couldn't accept losing to Winnie.
"Miss Winnie, please start,"
Jeffrey said. Winnie glanced at him gratefully. Finally, she felt that knowing him was a good thing. Winnie's voice was completely different from Maddie's. When she crooned, her voice was deep, added with her guitar. Her singing had a sense of rhythm that Maddie's didn't. As she finished, the people applauded. Director Woods liked her singing. He said,
"I've heard your songs before. Your voice is clean and bright, so I was worried that my theme would not suit you. After hearing you sing, I now know that my worries were unnecessary. I like your lyrics, too. I'm surprised that you express the emotions so well. Maddie's work is good, too,"
the producer reminded Director Woods.
"You can't forget about her after listening to Miss Winnie's voice." "I know."
Director Woods rubbed his temples and said,
"How about this? Let's vote. The one who gets the most votes will be singing our theme song." "That's a good idea,"
the others agreed. Six people made votes. Maddie and Winnie each got 3 votes. Patricia got 0. She felt so ashamed that her face turned scarlet.
"This is difficult,"
Director Woods said. Winnie was so nervous that her palms were sweating.
"I think we should choose Maddie," the producer said. "She is a highly skilled and experienced singer. Her voice is familiar with most people over 30 years old." "I think Winnie's skilled too, and she's popular,"
said the supervising producer. Jeffrey turned his pen. He finally joined the conversation and said with a cold voice,
"In fact, their voices can be impressive together."
Director Wood's eyes glowed.
"Are you saying that?"
Winnie nodded and asked,
"Why can't they sing the song together? There's an age gap between them, but one of them has a touching, strong voice. The other could sing with a floating, gentle voice. Shouldn't that be interesting? Besides, isn't Winnie's voice perfect to be heard during the film? When the female lead is put into a miserable situation, she can sing the ending song too, sad and deep. I've heard her songs. Her love songs are great." "Yes, you reminded me."
Director Woods patted the table and excitedly said,
"Let's do that. Winnie and Maddie will sing the theme song together. I believe you two can create marvelous work together. As for the interlude song and the ending song, Winnie will work on them."
The rest of the crew nodded in agreement. Maddie turned and reached a hand toward Winnie and said to her,
"Little girl, I hope we'll work happily together."
"Yeah, me too." Winnie was so excited that her face reddened. After hearing Maddie sing, she didn't care if Director Woods would pick her or not. After all, Maddie was excellent at singing. She sincerely admired her. The songs they wrote were about the same level. However, Maddie was much more experienced than her, so she was very likely to win. If Jeffrey didn't speak for her, she would certainly lose. In the end, she unexpectedly got both the theme song and the ending song. She couldn't believe it.
You both created good lyrics and music, so I hope that you two can work well together,
Sean said smilingly.
Next, my assistant will help you sign the contract. I would like to have your support on all sorts of promotional events during the production of the film.
No problem, Winnie nodded. She sneakily glanced at Jeffrey and found him looking at his phone, as if he had nothing to do with what was happening. She smiled faintly. She understood he was not as cold as he looked. He was just like his sister. Patricia walked out of the studio with Winnie and Maddie. Before leaving, she glared at Winnie. Bob covered her mouth and whispered,
"Why did she look at you like that? She lost you already."
"Shh." Winnie put a finger against her lips and said in a deep voice, "She is arrogant but capable. Otherwise, Director Woods wouldn't have invited her here. She lost this time because she's too self-righteous." She felt lucky that she was comparatively more hardworking. After signing the contract, Winnie and Maddie exchanged phone numbers. As they prepared to leave, Winnie got a message from Jeffrey.
"Buy me dinner tonight."
She smiled and snorted silently. He acted so coldly and pretended not to know her a few minutes ago, but now he was asking her to buy him dinner. He had done her a big favor, so of course she would buy him dinner. She replied with, "Sure. What do you prefer for dinner? How about I cook for you at home? I don't want the reporters taking pictures of us." Jeffrey,
"We eat at home every day. I'm bored. How about we go for an outing and do a barbecue this weekend? You'll do the barbecue, and I'll eat."
Winnie didn't see that coming. She didn't know how to barbecue, but she assumed it wouldn't be hard. Going for the outing was a good idea. Ever since she started her career, she rarely went out. Winnie liked the idea. "Okay, should we invite your sister and Mr. Bennett? The two of us alone might be boring." Jeffrey replied,
"No, my sister's pregnant. Aaron won't let her touch barbecue. Besides, he would sit beside us and talk about how barbecue will bring cancer to people."
Winnie found him very right. Mr. Bennett only ate in A-grade places and would never let April come out alone. Currently, April was like a first-class national protected animal to Aaron. Soon, Jeffrey sent her another message.
"I won't be bored. With delicious food, I'll have fun, even if I'm with a doll."
Winnie didn't know how to respond to that. "Why don't you go with the doll then?" she thought unhappily. So she would only be there to make barbecue for him?
"It's a deal then,"
Jeffrey added. In front of the French window, Jeffrey was reading the messages. He was obviously in a good mood, as a big smile had emerged on his face. Sean glanced at him, then kicked him under the table, saying in a low voice,
"Who are you texting? Why are you smiling that way? Do you have a girlfriend?"
The corner of Jeffrey's mouth slightly twitched. Was he smiling just now? He didn't think so.
"Focus. Let's see their acting,"
he said to Sean.
"Damn. Who's the not focusing one?"
Sean thought. More than 30 actors and actresses came for the audition. Some of them flew all the way there. Jeffrey tended to work with experienced artists since they were good at acting. The producer liked the popular ones more. Around noon, they had a simple lunch. They sat together and talked about one of the male supporting characters. During the meeting, Harry, the producer, received a phone call. After ending the call, he came back and said to the others,
"Here is an urgent message from the investor. Ben will be playing that supporting character."
The others were surprised. Director Woods pulled a long face and said,
"We were about to give that role to Carter Hope. He's a popular and good actor. He's looking for a chance to expand his career, so he even lowered his price." "That's right," the assistant director nodded. "Earlier, I read the news saying that Ben acts like a diva. I hate it when artists are like that. This is not for me to decide."
Harry was a little embarrassed and said,
"The investor strongly demanded we give him that role. We are talking about the biggest investor of this film. I couldn't say no to what they asked. Also, I have to remind you that we hired a famous company for post-production. If we don't do what they say, this post-production team might leave."
Director Woods' face was sour. Jeffrey frowned. Ben's name wasn't strange for him. Earlier, he made Morris Switch the spokesperson of his new game. Ben was the only one who got replaced.
What exactly is Ben's background?
Jeffrey was expecting to see Ben again.
Doesn't the internet say that he was born in an ordinary family, built his career single-handedly somewhere abroad, and then came back to America?
Someone burst into laughter and said,
Can we believe anything the internet says? Who can possibly become a superstar so easily without a solid background?
Jeffrey gave a cold smile and said,
I'm sorry, I've seen him act like a diva with my own eyes.
Director Woods glanced at him.
The father of one of my friends owns the game company which recently fired Ben as the spokesman of their new game,
Jeffrey said.
Even if he used to do that before, no one ever dared work with Director Woods with that kind of attitude, right?
Harry hurriedly commented.
We really don't have to openly offend the investor right now. Now everything is ready. The more time we waste, the more money it will cost. Even if we switch our investor, the other investors would make the same request.
Director Woods gave a long sigh and said,
The atmosphere of the film industry is getting worse. That's why there's so many trashy movies nowadays. All right, let him play that role. We'll try to cut his part as much as possible.
Jeffrey pressed his lips together. His unhappiness was evident.
Ben will come here for the audition later, Harry said. We still have to go through the motions, but don't give him a hard time.
At 1:30 p.m., Ben auditioned. He had slightly changed his appearance. His hair was short, exposing his eyebrows. His face was unshaven. He was wearing a denim jacket, which made him look like a ruffian. His new look was a little closer to the male role he was going to play in the film. Recognizing Jeffrey, who was sitting in front of him, his dark eyes wore a faint, awkward look. But soon that look faded. He composedly nodded at Sean, then started his performance. Sean was delighted after watching his performance. It was not as bad as he thought it would be. Harry clapped and said,
Ben, I never thought you were good at acting.
Jeffrey lazily raised his eyes and said,
Yeah, his acting skills are okay compared to those who know nothing about acting.
Ben's expression froze on his handsome face. Awkwardly, he said in a low voice,
I know that I still need to improve myself in many ways. Director Woods, please tell me anything that is on your mind about my performance.
Sean rubbed the spot between his eyebrows, then nodded. Sitting beside Sean, Jeffrey took a sip of water, then continued.
I have a question. Mr. Merck, aren't you a singer? You were doing good as a singer. Why did you suddenly decide to become an actor? To be honest, the door sill for acting is getting lower and lower. Currently, I'm seeing singers, hosts, and comedy performers do cross-border acting work.
Ben wore an embarrassed look. He raised his head, looking at Jeffrey in the eyes. Harry frowned slightly and said,
Jeffrey, mind your language. Cross-border work is normal. Many of our actors and actresses are working as singers. The problem is, I don't think he has great music work.
Jeffrey turned the water bottle in his hands, maintaining his cold tone of speaking.
Director Diaz, I guess you're still mad at me because of what happened in the last time.
Ben smiled and said,
It was not my choice that the actresses you wanted got replaced. That was the company's business. All right, now is not the time to talk about personal issues.
Sean interrupted him, then glanced at Jeffrey and said to him with a low voice,
There's no reason to argue.
Jeffrey undid the button below his collarbone and stood up and said lazily,
Since we've chosen the supporting actor, I guess I have no reason to stay here. You guys take your time to select the rest of them.
After saying that, he turned and left. Harry was a little unhappy. In front of the others, he said to Sean,
Why is Jeffrey so arrogant? His work is well received internationally, but this is America. Who knows if his work will still do good here?
Sean smiled at him, then explained, saying,
You may not know, but he has every right to be arrogant. He is the major shareholder of Starlight Films. His mother is the heir of the Diaz family. His brother-in-law is Aaron, the owner of Splingo. Do I need to explain to you who Aaron is? Currently, his sister is pregnant. She is like the national treasure in the Bennett family. Would she ever let her little brother suffer any unfairness?
Harry didn't know what to say.
Ben frowned. He didn't know that Jeffrey was April's brother. No wonder.
April was Winnie's good friend, and Winnie was selected to do the theme song. Did it have anything to do with Jeffrey? Winnie stayed at the company to work on the song with her team until 6 p.m. As she arrived downstairs at her apartment, she saw that Jeffrey's light was on. She went upstairs, hesitated briefly, then walked to his door and knocked on it. Before long, Jeffrey opened the door. He was wearing knee-length pajama pants with his upper body bare. His muscular chest was covered in water droplets. His hair was newly washed as well. While opening the door, he was drying his wet hair with a white towel. His fingers were clean and slender. Looking at him, Winnie felt that her heart was burning. She had seen his body that morning, but not so closely. She was in quite a hurry that morning. Now, his young and sexy body was right in front of her, making her cheeks turn red. Jeffrey noticed her red cheeks. He remembered her blush once before when he went to find her. Did she blush at the sight of him? He lowered his head and glanced at his own body. Corners of his mouth turned up. He ripped off the towel, exposing his shoulders.
Are you here to thank me?
He asked. I didn't know you were in the shower. I'll come back later. When he turned, intending to leave.
It's okay. I'm done. Come in.
Jeffrey held her arm. For the first time, he found her arm soft and tender. When he glanced at his hand, Jeffrey paused for a few seconds and quickly let go of her arm. He felt a bit awkward. Previously, every time a girl discovered where he lived and came to find him, he would want to drive them away with a broom. Seeing Winnie, he didn't want to do that at all. It was strange.
You haven't dried your hair yet,
Winnie said.
I never dry my hair,
Jeffrey said. Winnie walked in. She changed into slippers and looked around the living room, purposefully avoiding looking at his chest. Just put on something, she said. She awkwardly put her hair behind her ear, accidentally exposing her red ears. Jeffrey wanted to laugh. It was nothing but his bare chest, so why did it make her so shy? She was like an innocent little girl. He even wanted to capture her and bully her. As he picked up a white t-shirt from the couch and put it on, Winnie finally sighed with relief. Being close to a man who had a bare upper body at night made her feel uncomfortable, especially since she had slept with that man. Thank you for today, she said with a low voice. Why didn't you tell me your relationship with Director Woods before? Were you worried that I might ask for your help? You don't need to worry about that. I think you'd never do that kind of favor for anyone, not even your sister.
How'd you know?
Jeffrey took out a cup of yogurt from the freezer and handed it to her. The yogurt from that brand was delicious, so Winnie took it. She said, because most people who are difficult to get along with are like that. Once her voice faded, Jeffrey's cold eyes landed on her. She immediately felt cold. Shivering, she added, Am I wrong?
Give me that yogurt back,
Jeffrey said as he reached out his hand. Winnie blinked. For some reason, she pulled the yogurt close to her and said, No! Jeffrey looked at the yogurt, but ended up being distracted by her breasts, which were upon the yogurt. She was wearing a thin, light brown cardigan that emphasized her full breast. His Adam's apple squirmed slightly as he hurriedly moved his eyes away. I was joking, Winnie laughed. She didn't notice the look in Jeffrey's eyes. I know you helped me. I knew nothing about Director Woods. You gave me hints and spent time to work on my music with me. If it weren't for you, I might not even have a chance to compete with Maddie. Not to mention the fact that I won this opportunity. When do you have time? We'll go out for a barbecue. I'm not free at the weekend, but I have time Friday morning.
What a coincidence. I'm free Friday morning too.
He only had a technical demonstration class that morning, but he would try to escape it.
I'm gonna get us food.
Jeffrey nodded. That's not okay. Winnie felt a little guilty about it. We've agreed that I'll buy the food.
You can give me the money afterwards,
said Jeffrey. Winnie didn't know how to respond. She was a little touched. It turned out that she was wrong. Noticing the change of her expression, Jeffrey thought for a moment and said,
"You don't have to give me the money. It won't be a lot anyway."
"No, that won't be all right. Didn't you say that except for your family and girlfriend, you won't spend money on anyone else?" "I understand," Winnie said. "You said that just now. How could I not give you the money?" she thought. Jeffrey frowned. She was right, but at that time, Sean called him. "Just get the call. I'm leaving." Winnie gave a hand gesture to let him know that she was taking off. Jeffrey nodded, then answered the call.
"If you're going to talk to me about Ben, forget it. I won't change my attitude."
Winnie, who had just walked to the door, froze. She felt as if someone suddenly gripped her heart. She had broken up with him but could not forget him. Her heart ached every time she heard his name. She turned and watched Jeffrey talk on the phone. Sean said on the other side of the phone,
"Don't overthink. He will spend 10 days with the crew at most. He has a strong background and we were given no other choice. Don't let everyone know that you have issues with him. His friends are crazy and you're not famous in America. Don't bring trouble to yourself. Anyway, I won't direct his part. He's so lame, I would just scold him."
Jeffrey finished talking, then ended the call. Afterward, he turned and found that Winnie was still near the door, looking at him as if she wanted to say something.
"Aren't you leaving?"
Jeffrey thought she had left. I just heard you mention Ben's name." Winnie was guessing but didn't want to believe it. "He isn't taking part in the new film, is he?" Jeffrey responded. Winnie paused for a few seconds and said, "I didn't hear about it before. I didn't see him during the audition either." If she knew that he would be there, she would give up on the opportunity. She didn't want to see him during work. She could not face him with composure. Even looking at him would be like tearing open old wounds in her heart. Jeffrey snorted and said,
"I wouldn't have agreed to work on this film if I knew that I'd have to work with him. Carter was supposed to be the supporting actor. For some reason, the investor replaced Carter with him. He's just a singer. I wonder about his background. Judging by what the producer said, I think the producer can't afford to offend him."
Winnie felt bitter. What she heard from the TV station seemed to be true. She knew all about Ben's family background. His parents were ordinary workers and his entire family lived together in an old flat. How could he possibly become so powerful if he was not with a rich and powerful girl?
"What's wrong?"
The sensitive Jeffrey frowned as he noticed that Winnie suddenly became absent-minded.
"Do you know Ben?"
he asked. "No." Winnie hurriedly shook her head. "I just think he's pretty famous. After all, we're both singers."
"Can someone like that really be called a singer?"
Jeffrey snorted coldly.
"A singer needs to be like you, at least."
"Like me? What am I like?" Winnie wasn't expecting him to say that. She thought, didn't he always say that my singing was merely average?
"Just average,"
Jeffrey said. He felt a little awkward.
"Aren't you leaving?"
"I am leaving," Winnie said. She had a lot on her mind. She needed to go home and calm down. Back in her room, she browsed the contract. She wasn't an actress, but she still needed to participate in promotional events, including the opening ceremony that would take place in a month. After the filming was done, she needed to attend more than 10 advertising events that would be held all over the country. Clearly, she would see Ben at all those events. Knowing that, she felt numb all over. She called Tara and asked, "What do you think will happen if I choose to quit Director Woods' new film?" Tara was silent for a while. He suddenly yelled,
"Is your brain damaged? Are you asleep? Should I take you to the hospital to find out what's wrong with you?"
Winnie didn't say anything else. She had no one else to talk to but April. Only April knew her story. She called April and told her what happened. "I know you don't want to face him, but you're in the same circle now," April said. "You'll see each other sooner or later. It's even normal for you two to work together. Don't you see how many couples in the entertainment circle frequently run into each other at all kinds of events after they break up? Winnie, you can't give up your opportunities for a man like that. It's not worth it." Winnie smiled bitterly and said, "April, I think I have a very poor taste in men." "Me too." April said. It's all right. The people with good taste will discover us and fall for us sooner or later. The two soon ended their call. April turned and found Aaron leaning against the guardrail on the balcony, looking at her with a smile.
Have you finally realized that I have good taste?
He asked as he proudly raised his eyebrows. Have you been eavesdropping on our conversation? April frowned. She recalled her conversation with Winnie very carefully. She wasn't sure if she had mentioned Ben's name or not.
Not eavesdropping. I was just listening to what you said.
Aaron shrugged.
Based on the information you provided, I figure that Winnie's ex-boyfriend is a star and that they're going to work together in the new film. Winnie is going to sing the theme song for that movie. Her ex-boyfriend is a toy boy, and he betrayed Winnie. He's probably with another woman now. Poor Winnie.
April didn't know what to say.
By you.
Morris was confused. Jeffrey suddenly felt that he shouldn't have turned to him. He might as well keep talking to Austin.
I really don't like that one. Before, I didn't like this one either, but recently I somehow started to like her.
Morris was a little confused.
Should I congratulate you then? You finally like a girl. But she's 3 years older than me,
Jeffrey said with a frown.
She's like a little girl, though.
Morris wanted to laugh.
You think she's like a little girl because you like her. Anyway, this isn't easy. Since you like her, be nice to her. I'll try to marry her as soon as possible. Jeffrey nodded. Morris nearly choked on his saliva. You just started to recently like her and you're already thinking about marrying her? Isn't that too fast? Besides, does she even like you? She'll like me sooner or later, Jeffrey responded with a bland tone. I like her and I'm serious about it.
Morris didn't know what to say.
All right, I am impressed, he thought.
After figuring out what was on his mind, Jeffrey felt rather strange about the result. He wanted to marry Winnie so that she would always make porridge for him. At nightfall, he passed a milk tea shop. He hesitated briefly, went in and bought 2 cups of milk tea, one for himself and one to go. Back home, he knocked on Winnie's door, but no one answered. He sent her a message.
Aren't you at home?
She didn't reply. With disappointment, he recalled that she didn't answer his call earlier. An hour later, Winnie replied to his message. I'm watching a movie. Jeffrey immediately opened the movie app on his phone. There wasn't any good movie showing. Who was she watching the movie with? She wasn't with Marvin, was she? He immediately asked her.
What's the movie?
Winnie replied, Ready Player One. Jeffrey smiled. What a trashy movie. Yet he replied to her,
That's a nice one. Why didn't you invite me?
Winnie, do you like it? I didn't know. I think it's just average. Jeffrey,
who are you with? How much is the ticket? Is it expensive? Is there any discount?
Winnie, you're a director. Can a movie ticket possibly be expensive for you?
Jeffrey, sure. I have to give every penny I have to my future wife.
Winnie didn't know what to say. She told herself she must pay him for the barbecue. Sitting beside her, Marvin noticed that she was sending messages the whole time. He couldn't help but ask her,
Is the movie bad?
It's not like that. Winnie felt a little awkward. How much is the ticket? My friend wants to know. Marvin paused briefly, then responded with a smile.
$8.
Thank you. Winnie sighed with relief, then messaged Jeffrey. $8.
Expensive,
Jeffrey replied. Winnie, I think it's okay. Not really expensive. That's what a movie ticket usually costs.
Since you found it not expensive, you can buy me a ticket next time. Thank you, Jeffrey replied.
Winnie felt speechless. What kind of person are you? She thought. Clenching her teeth, she replied to him. I'm sorry. It's expensive for me too. Bye. Reading her message, Jeffrey frowned. What a silly girl. He had obviously shown his intentions, yet she failed to get it. Would he ever care about 80 yuan? Was he that kind of man? He finally stopped messaging her. Winnie put her phone back into her purse. Thankfully, she ran away after sleeping with him. Otherwise, that stingy man might ask her to pay for the sex. Once the film was over, Winnie zipped her jacket to cover her chin and put on her mask. It was crowded when they left the screen room. Marvin guarded her with one arm in case someone bumped into her. "Mr. Marvin!" someone called from behind. Marvin turned and saw Carol and Secretary Yolden, who also worked in his company. Carol looked at Winnie. Her face was a little pale. As a girl, Winnie easily figured out how Carol might be feeling. She dropped her eyes and pulled her mask slightly upward. She regretted coming out. Marvin was already by her school gate when she finished her classes. He told her he had gotten the tickets. She didn't have the heart to say no. Secretary Yolden glanced at Winnie and said with a smile, "Mr. Liu, we didn't know you had a girlfriend. No wonder you rarely work late lately. She's not my girlfriend," Marvin hurriedly said. "She's just a friend." He glanced at Carol, who remained silent, and asked, "Are you here for the movie?" "Yeah, it just got over," Secretary Yolden said. "I guess we watched the same movie. Sadly, we didn't see each other until it was over." Marvin gave a polite smile and said, "We have to go. I still need to drive her home." Carol abruptly joined the conversation and said, "Mr. Marvin, we live in the same area. Do you mind giving me a ride?" It wouldn't be a problem, but Marvin worried that Carol might find out Winnie's identity in the car. With no other choice, he shook his head and said, "I have something to do after that, so I'll be going home very late. Ask Miss Yolden to give you a ride." After saying that, he quickly left with Winnie. Carol looked at his back with disappointment. She always knew Marvin had something in his heart. She thought that she still had a chance since he didn't have a girlfriend. After seeing Winnie, she guessed that she had no chance at all. "Don't give up," Secretary Yolden said. "You two work in the same company every day. You'll always have a chance." Carol shook her head and said, "That's impossible. Didn't you see how pretty his girlfriend's eyes were? I bet she looks stunning without a mask. And her body and her bag? I think she's younger than me." Secretary Yon burst into laughter and said, "Come on! You're one of the prettiest girls in our company. Mr. Bennett even asked you to pretend to be his girlfriend once." "Please don't mention that." Carol waved her hand and said, "I almost killed him. It pains me to think about it. Why do I feel that Mr. Marvin's girlfriend looks so familiar? Oh, I know. I've met her before. I had Molotong with her when I was pretending to be Mr. Bennett's girlfriend. She's good friends with Mrs. Neon. She became a star recently. She's Winnie. I know her." "Winnie is Mr. Marvin's girlfriend?" Secretary Yolden was shocked. Carol dropped her head. Her eyes turned red. "Forget it. Winnie is 10 times better than I am. I finally understand why Mr. Marvin doesn't like me. I just give up." Secretary Yolden sighed and said, Just fight for it." "How? I can't possibly win." Marvin drove Winnie home. Winnie unfastened her safety belt and didn't immediately get out of the car. "What's wrong?" Marvin was a little excited, wondering if Winnie was reluctant to leave him. "Mr. Marvin, thank you for the movie," Winnie hesitantly said. "You've always been a nice and thoughtful person in my heart. You took care of me and helped me. I appreciate all that you've done, but I want you to know that you're like a brother to me." Marvin immediately felt as if someone had poured a bucket of cold water onto his head. "Winnie," he said, "you don't need to jump to conclusions. We can try to know more about each other. I know that you recently broke up with your ex, and that you're not yet over him. You've given so much to that relationship. I understand." Winnie shook her head and said, "I don't know how long it'll take me to get over my last relationship. Maybe 1 year or 2 or even 5. I don't want you to wait for me. Besides, you're like a brother to me. I don't have those kind of feelings for you. I don't want to waste your time. I just don't feel that way for you." She understood that she was being a little too straightforward, but she really didn't want to waste Marvin's time. Marvin was frustrated. He had some hope after learning that she had broke up with her ex-boyfriend. He was only Aaron's assistant, but he was not one of those people who lived on fixed salaries. He had learned a lot about business from Aaron and had some savings too. He thought Winnie would give him a chance. He didn't care if he was only a tool for her to get over her last relationship. "That girl we met earlier at the cinema is nice. think her name is Carol. She seems to be fond of you," Winnie said.
"Do you know her?"
Marvin was surprised. "Some time ago, she was asked to pretend to be Mr. Bennet's girlfriend. I met her back then. She's pure-minded. If it wasn't for her, April and Mr. Bennet wouldn't have gotten back together so easily." Winnie thought about it. "Cherish what you have."
"Winnie,"
Marvin gave a bitter smile. "I hope you find a girl and are happy. You are a great, mature big brother to me." Before Winnie could finish, someone knocked on the car window on Marvin's side. Marvin felt a little annoyed. He opened the window and saw Jeffrey's glamorous face.
"Mr. Marvin, it's your car. No wonder I found the plate so familiar. I guess that it was you driving Winnie back from the cinema,"
said Jeffrey.
"How do you know we were watching a movie?"
Marvin couldn't force a smile at that moment, as he was just given the good brother card.
"She told me."
Jeffrey glanced at Winnie, who was in the front seat, then at her hand. Good. She wasn't holding hands with Marvin, and her lips weren't red and swollen.
"You two are getting closer and closer. I'm so jealous of you living so close with Winnie."
Marvin felt a little weird. He honestly felt jealous of him, though.
"What's to be jealous of? You'd be tired of her if you had to see her every day,"
Jeffrey responded blandly. Winnie was speechless. Marvin instantly felt delighted. He told himself that he was overthinking. Even his boss wasn't as sharp-tongued as Jeffrey. He assumed that Winnie would never like him.
"I'm leaving."
Jeffrey stood straight, seemingly prepared to leave, but abruptly he bent over and said to Winnie,
"Aren't you leaving? I need to talk to you about the movie."
Winnie paused briefly, then hurriedly nodded, sighing in relief. "Mr. Marvin? I'll see you then." Marvin was terribly frustrated.
"Are you guys working together on a movie?"
"Yeah." Winnie got off the car and walked into the apartment building together with Jeffrey. Marvin looked at them walking away. Jeffrey was about a foot taller than Winnie. He was in a white shirt, carrying a few bags. Walking side by side, they looked like a young couple. At that moment, he realized that he looked much older than Winnie. While waiting for the elevator, Winnie glanced at Jeffrey and asked, "Why are you out so late at night?" She remembered that he barely had any nightlife.
"I was hungry, so I went out to get some milk tea and after-dinner snacks,"
Jeffrey said. Winnie saw him carrying 2 cups of milk tea from the place she liked.
"You want one?"
Jeffrey handed her a cup. "No, thank you." Winnie shook her head. She thought, what if he asked for money if I accept it?
"Take it. I got an extra cup anyway,"
Jeffrey said. Winnie didn't feel right to say no again. She took it and asked, "How much?"
"I'll pay you." "Just 10.
Jeffrey blandly responded. "All right." Winnie nodded. Winnie sent him the money once she got into the elevator. The signal was bad, so Jeffrey received the money when he exited it. He instantly pulled a long face and asked Winnie,
"Why'd you send me money?"
"It's for the milk tea." Winnie didn't understand why he suddenly got unhappy. "Do you charge extra for—" Jeffrey let out a breath, wondering why in the world he had fallen for such a silly woman. Life was full of surprises.
"Didn't I tell you that it only cost $10? Why did you still pay me for it?"
he asked through clenched teeth. Winnie blinked and said, "You said $10 but didn't say that I didn't need to pay you. I thought you were telling me the exact price."
"Do I look like such a stingy person?"
Jeffrey coldly asked with a glare. Winnie nodded and said, "Yeah." Jeffrey was speechless. She seemed to have some deep misunderstandings about him. He understood that, though. He had never thought about building a relationship with her before. Now he had decided to make her his girlfriend. That would be something different. He couldn't say that out loud. He needed to do it step by step, or she might get frightened.
"All right, I'm not going to take your money,"
Jeffrey blandly said.
"I can afford to buy you a cup of milk tea. Do you want some after-dinner snacks? I got plenty."
Winnie did want some spicy chicken wings. She had dinner with Marvin earlier, but that dinner wasn't as satisfying since she had so much on her mind. "Why are you suddenly so nice to me?" she asked. She felt a little strange about Jeffrey's behaviors, which made her worry. Jeffrey stayed silent briefly before saying,
"For some reason, I recently feel that having after-dinner snacks alone is boring. I prefer eating with someone else. That's more interesting."
Winnie nodded. She understood how he felt. She felt the same. "But why? Don't you always eat alone?" she asked. Jeffrey was annoyed by her questions.
I guess I'm just old enough to feel lonely sometimes,
he said. I think you're only 20, right? The corner of Winnie's mouth slightly twitched. She was 23. If 20 could be called old, what was she?
Yeah, I recently turned 20. Don't you think that's a big step in my life?
Jeffrey walked to his flat and said,
Come on.
Let me drop off my bag first, Winnie said. 3 minutes later, Winnie went to Jeffrey's place. He had already put the food on the table. When she got there, he was sitting on the carpet with his legs crossed. The room was full of the scent of the delicious, spicy chicken wings.
This carpet's clean. Come and sit here,
Jeffrey said as he waved her over. He took a can of soda out of the plastic bag and poured it in a glass and placed it in front of her. Thank you. Winnie took off her shoes and moved to the carpet. Holding the glass, she felt a little uneasy. Why are you so nice to me tonight? She asked. He even put a drinking straw in her. That never happened before.
I'm always nice.
Jeffrey lowered his head and started peeling picked up a piece of chicken wing. You'll find that I'm nicer than you think I am, he thought, when he pretended not to hear what he said. Why is the food cold? She asked after she touched a piece.
Yeah, it's cold,
Jeffrey nodded. He bought them 3 hours ago. He, of course, could not tell her the truth. With a frown, he said,
I guess the restaurant owner didn't give me a freshly cooked food. I'll never go to that restaurant again.
Winnie nodded, then lowered her head to glance at the name of the restaurant written on the takeaway boxes. She told herself that she would never go to that restaurant either. Seeing her reaction, Jeffrey slightly turned. The corners of his mouth curved into a smile.
This silly girl believes anything I say,
he thought.
What were you and Marvin talking about in the car just now? I happened to notice that his car was parked there for a while. Was he telling you that he likes you?
Jeffrey asked while eating. He pretended to be casual.
He seems to fancy you, and you went to watch a movie with him. Do you like him too?
Winnie shook her head and responded with, No, I just wanted to make it clear with him. We can't be together.
You're right, Jeffrey nodded. He's nice, but too old for you. I think you better be with someone from school or from your circle so there won't be a generation gap between you and your partner. Of course, by circle, I didn't mean the circle of singers. I meant the whole entertainment circle, like the circle of the show business.
He was talking about himself. He was from her school and was a part of the entertainment circle. As a director, he had set foot in that circle. He would become an internationally famous director sooner or later. A director and a singer could make a perfect match. In the entertainment circle? I never thought about that. Thinking about Ben, Winnie had a trace of sadness emerging from her eyes. That circle's way too complicated and messy. Many people in that circle can't resist temptation. Many of them cheat on their partners and betray their friends. I'll never be with someone from that circle. Jeffrey dropped the food in his hand. That would be a big problem. He was meant to become a director and couldn't possibly become anything else.
Not everyone's like that. Look at me. Am I not keeping my nose clean? And you. You've been resisting the lures too, haven't you?
He was trying to say that in the entertainment circle, they were the perfect match for each other. Me? Winnie gave a bitter smile and said, I'm like this now, but I'll probably change in the future. Who knows what I might turn into? As for you, you're so talented and you own a film company. You'll be the one pursued by the others. I guess money doesn't mean that much to you. You'll probably meet a pretty girl in the future.
I won't.
Jeffrey suddenly interrupted her. He spoke so loudly that Winnie gave a start. The chicken wing in her hand was squeezed and the juice splashed onto her face, seeping into her eyes. She hurriedly took a napkin and wiped her eyes with it. The harder she wiped, the worse it hurt.
Don't move. You have oil on the back of your hands, too.
Jeffrey held her hands. Her hands were so small and soft that he didn't want to let them go. After spending a few seconds in a daze, Jeffrey finally came back to his senses. He stood up and said,
Sit here. I'll get you a wet towel.
Winnie nodded. Her eye sockets were red, making her look very vulnerable. Jeffrey gave her another glance, then quickly brought over a wet towel, gently wiping her right eye with it. This was his first time looking at her face so closely. Her skin was clean and tender like jelly, without any freckles or acne. He even wanted to take a bite of that skin. Jeffrey stopped himself from doing anything that he should not be doing. He put his other hand on her face. Winnie was a bit startled when his warm hand suddenly touched her cheek. "What are you doing?" she asked as her cheeks reddened. "You were moving, so I couldn't wipe the oil off your face," Jeffrey said as he moved closer to her. His handsome face was only about 5 inches away from hers. Winnie was so nervous that she didn't even dare breathe loudly. "I wasn't moving," she said. "You were, you just didn't realize it." Jeffrey wanted so much to pinch her cheeks, but he couldn't. Winnie doubted what he said. Due to their current positions, her brain wasn't working well. Occasionally, the towel brushed across her nose, allowing her to smell the scent that belonged to him. It was his towel. Normally, people didn't share towels with others. Even some couples wouldn't share towels. The spicy oil burned her cheeks. As Jeffrey's towel left her eyes, she tried to open them. She moved backward and said, "I'm okay." "Be careful," Jeffrey said. "You're just having some spicy chicken wings. I can't believe you let that happen, you dumb little girl." He lowered his voice when saying the last few words. Listening carefully, one might sense an affectionate tone from them. Winnie didn't sense it. On the contrary, she felt humiliated. "What did you say?" she asked. "I'm 3 years older than you. Can you please show me some respect?" "I don't think so." Jeffrey dropped the towel and turned up the corners of his mouth. She was older than him, but she needed his caring. Winnie clenched her teeth and asked, "Would I squeeze juice and oil into my eyes if you didn't scare me just now?" "I did nothing but just raise my voice a little," Jeffrey said. He looked at her without blinking. "You shouldn't have mentioned pretty girls or something like that. I'm telling you, if I ever fell for a girl, I'd love her my whole life." Winnie paused briefly. She couldn't tell if that was real, but his eyes were burning and making her face feel on fire. "All right, I believe you, but I don't need to know what kind of girl you like," she said. "I don't want the others to misunderstand me," Jeffrey said. He turned his face away. He decided to end that topic since he didn't want to scare her. "Oh," Winnie nodded and continued eating her final wing. "I'm full. I'm going home." After saying that, she stood up. Jeffrey turned and said, "You said that you were in a bad mood earlier. Are you feeling better now?" Winnie paused and turned back. She saw the back of Jeffrey's head. He was focusing on the food as if it was the only casual question to ask. "I'm better," she responded with a dry voice. Running away was not a solution. Ben was a barrier to her, and she had to cross it. "Good. I don't want your bad mood to affect our barbecue trip on Friday," Jeffrey said. After Winnie left, Jeffrey looked at the rest of the food in his bowl. Suddenly, he felt that he had lost his appetite. That was exactly why he didn't want to start a relationship. That could really affect his appetite. For the first time in his life, he lost his appetite for after-dinner snacks because of a woman. That was terrible. The next day, Winnie was awoken by knocking on her door. She put on a coat and unhappily answered the door. As she thought, Jeffrey was standing there. Before she started to complain, he threw his phone into her hand and said, "Look, you're in the headlines." Winnie picked up the phone and looked at the headline news. It was a picture of her and Marvin coming out of the cinema. Marvin's face was covered up. She was wearing a mask, but people could still recognize her by her eyes. The headline was, "Winnie and her boyfriend watched a movie in the evening, then went back to the apartment to spend the night together." How did this happen? Winnie was shocked and angry. The press is making up stories. When did we go back to the apartment together? Is there a picture of us coming back here? "You shouldn't have gone to the cinema with him. Don't you know that it cost them nothing to make up lies?" Jeffrey felt uncomfortable when he saw the pictures of Winnie and Marvin together. "What now? You're still a new artist, yet you're already involved in a scandal. Your manager will be angry." Being reminded by him, Winnie immediately thought of her manager. She hurriedly shut her door. The slam of the door made Jeffrey take 2 steps backward. He frowned, but then he smiled. "I doubt you'll ever go on a date with anyone else again," he thought. Winnie found her phone and saw over 10 missed calls from Tara and Bob. She hurriedly called Tara. Tara answered and asked through clenched teeth, "Why didn't you tell me that you have a boyfriend? Who's that man?" I don't have a boyfriend. I just watched a movie with a guy last night, Winnie explained with a bitter smile. I made it clear to him last night. He's Marvin, the assistant of Mr. Bennett from Splingo. Oh, him, Tara responded knowingly. I'll make a post on behalf of you later. Is it okay to deny the rumor? It's okay. You need to be careful. Don't go out with any boy alone or the press might take more photos of you and accuse you of being a playgirl. That's going to be bad for your reputation. As for this media company, we'll sue them for defamation. Okay. Suddenly, Winnie was reminded that she was going to barbecue with Jeffrey in a couple of days. It made her worry. Marvin arrived at the office early in the morning. Someone from the CEO's office showed him the headline news on the phone. After reading the news, his expression instantly changed. He would be fine, but he worried it might affect Winnie's career and reputation. Winnie had her face covered last night. How did people recognize her? Right at that moment, Carol came over in a haste to punch her card. Marvin frowned. He walked up to Carol and said to her, You recognized Winnie last night, didn't you? Carol nodded and said, Yeah, I've met her. So you took pictures and leaked them to the press trying to ruin her reputation? Marvin showed her the headline news on the phone. I didn't do that. Carol looked at him with disbelief. She dressed like this. How could the others possibly recognize her? Marvin tightened his face. Because of this incident, Winnie would never go out with him again. How am I supposed to know? Am I such a sneaky person in your eyes? Carol burst into tears with anger. Nothing could be worse than being wronged. Why are you two arguing in the middle of the hallway? The tall and sturdy Aaron showed up by their side, glancing at each of them. Carol didn't look at him, but stared straight at Marvin and said, If you think I'm that kind of person, I have nothing more to say. She then turned and ran away. Aaron rubbed his forehead. Carol was probably the only one in the company who would dare ignore him. Marvin, get into my office. Aaron sat into his black leather chair and said, You must have wronged Carol. She's not that kind of person. Marvin was in a bad mood. Winnie put him into the friend zone last night. He was so upset that he didn't even sleep. He questioned Carol without thinking after he read the news. But she was there last night and she's been... Aaron interrupted him. You guided Carol on work. Don't you know what kind of person she is? Besides, is she smart enough to do that? Marvin stayed silent and thought, Boss, that sounds mean. I let her pretend to be my girlfriend and she nearly killed me in the end, Aaron said. I let her work in the CEO's office, but she failed almost every task I gave her. Think about it. If she's really as capable as you said, I'd make her my secretary right now. I'm sorry. Marvin dropped his head. Apologizing to me won't help you. Aaron glanced at him and asked, Are you and Winnie together? No. Marvin replied with a bitter smile. No. She made it clear to me. I have no chance. It's no big deal. Looking at his sad face, Aaron stood up, patted him on the shoulder, and said, There are other fish in the sea. Not everyone has a great taste as my Luo does. You need to understand that. I do. Marvin almost cried. Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Bennett's rejected you once, didn't she? How did you gather your courage to try again? Did she do that? Aaron glared and asked, Wasn't she playing the hard-to-get game? You're right. Marvin dropped his head again. He thought about how his boss asked him to buy books and do sweet talks in the middle of the night. He didn't mention that, though. If he did, he might not be able to leave the office unharmed. After Marvin left the office, he received a call from Winnie. Winnie, I'm so sorry, he said. I didn't know this would happen. It's okay, Winnie said. I was careless enough to let them take pictures of us. The paparazzi are following me closely these days. Paparazzi? They took the photos? Marvin's heart leaped. Yeah, my manager decided to sue the press company, Winnie said. Good, I'll find a way to take you off the top search list, Marvin said. He ended the call and started feeling bad about what he said to Carol. Suddenly, he received a call from the company's inside line. It was the HR manager.
Mr. Marvin, Carol from the CEO's office submitted her resignation just now.
The next day, Jeffrey came to Winnie's place for breakfast. Surprisingly, he found the breakfast extra rich. Along with chicken porridge, they had bacon and eggs. Are these good? Isn't this a rich breakfast? Winnie looked at him without blinking.
Not bad.
Jeffrey nodded, enjoying the food. Great, Winnie said. Can you take this as how I thank you for your help so we don't have to go for barbecue? Jeffrey's face immediately turned cold. He dropped the spoon, raised his head, and knitted his brows. Under his gaze, Winnie felt a little guilty. After the incident with me and Marvin, my company warned me to be careful, she said. I shouldn't go out with any male alone again. Jeffrey folded his arms. His eyes were filled with discontent.
So you made trouble with another guy, yet I have to pay the price. Is that right?
How about we eat at home? Winnie did feel guilty.
No, Jeffrey said. How about this? We'll find a quiet suburban area. I promise you I won't let anyone take any pictures of you. I own a film company. Who would dare take pictures of you and me? No one would do that. Trust me.
Winnie couldn't argue with him. He seemed to be right. She felt he was acting a little weird, though. Why do you want me to go out for barbecue so much?
Because the weather is nice and it's getting cold soon. Who would go out then? Besides, I'm about to start working with the film crew.
Jeffrey made himself sound very reasonable.
Don't you want to relax a little? Can you come up with any good lyrics staying home every day?
Winnie thought for a moment, then agreed. You have to make sure there won't be any scandal about us.
I'm not silly. My film's going to start shooting soon. Creating a scandal now will ruin my own reputation too. Don't forget that I helped you before. I don't want the others to know that we know each other.
Hearing that, Winnie finally stopped worrying and went back to her flat. On Friday, Winnie was sitting in Jeffrey's sports car. They were going out for barbecue. She had no idea where they were heading and fell asleep as soon as she got into the car. When she woke up, she found herself in a suburb area next to a clear river. Isn't this North Mountain? You drove all the way here? Winnie clicked her tongue. North Mountain was at least an hour and a half from her apartment.
Jeffrey nodded. What did you do last night? You slept all the way.
I was talking to Maddie about the theme song. Winnie rubbed her eyes and said, He's amazing. We have a lot to talk about, and I learned a lot from him. As she just woke up, her voice was as soft as water. The words Maddie escaped her lips with a sweet, intimate tone. Jeffrey wasn't happy to hear that.
How long have you guys known each other? How can you call him Maddie already? Besides, he's 20 years older than you. You should call him Uncle, shouldn't you?
Winnie sighed. Who likes to be called that nowadays? That would be offensive.
People should accept their real age,
said Jeffrey blandly.
You need to be careful when you're working with him. I heard the more serious man looks, the more lascivious and twisted he could be.
Winnie's eyes widened and she stared at him. Jeffrey looked straight ahead and continued while driving.
Didn't you say the entertainment circle is complicated?
I'm aware of that. You don't need to remind me of it. Winnie lowered her head to look at her phone. The roads in that area involved a lot of bends. After spending a while looking at her phone, Winnie felt a little dizzy and wanted to throw up. When they arrived at the destination, she almost crawled out of the car. Her face was ghastly pale. She felt sick but couldn't vomit.
You shouldn't look at your phone while the car is moving.
Jeffrey found a bag of ginger from the car and handed it to Winnie. He then took out a folding chair from the trunk and opened it for her to sit on.
Just sit here and have some fruit.
Winnie felt guilty. Let me rest a little. I'll start the fire once I feel better.
No need. You'll do the barbecue later and I'll do the preparation work.
Jeffrey took out the grill and started a charcoal fire. He had done that type of work since he was little, so it didn't take him as long to set the charcoal on fire. As he had his back to Winnie, he deliberately wiped his face with his hands, which were stained by charcoal. As he turned back, Winnie, who was eating a mango, hurriedly dropped the mango and said to him, Your face is dirty.
Yeah?
Jeffrey lowered his head and wiped his left cheek with his sleeves. The other side, Winnie reminded him. Jeffrey started wiping the other side of his face, but never really touched the dirty area. Come here, let me help you. Winnie couldn't bear to watch.
All right.
Jeffrey walked over to her and squatted before her. His eyes contained a faint smile. The sunlight poured onto his fair skin. His pretty face was glamorous as ever, and those stains added adorableness to it. She suddenly felt a little shy, so she stayed motionless for a short while. Jeffrey pretended not to notice the look on her face. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Come on, do it," when he pressed her lips together. She took out a wet tissue from her pocket to wipe his face. Once she reached out, Jeffrey tilted his head to dodge. "How am I supposed to wipe your face while you're moving your head like that?" Winnie asked. "Do you know why I put my hands on your face that night?" Jeffrey asked. Winnie recalled having crawfish together with Jeffrey that night. It was no wonder it felt familiar when she tried to wipe Jeffrey's face. It turned out that the same thing had happened to them before. They had just switched places. She was a girl. She couldn't possibly hold his face, could she? "Just don't move." Winnie became serious and said, "I can't wipe your face like this." "You're too strong. You're hurting me." Jeffrey blinked and said, "I'm not your sister." Winnie felt a little speechless. It was the first time someone had called her too strong. "I was careful," she said. "Maybe it's because I'm too weak." Jeffrey thought for a moment and said, "My sister took away all my strength while we were still in our mother's womb." Winnie burst into laughter. Failing the argument, she pressed a palm on one side of his face and wiped his cheek hard. Jeffrey closed his eyes. His eyelashes were thick and long. They looked like a pair of brushes. Winnie was stunned by how pretty his eyelashes were. Her palm started burning, but she didn't notice that. A car suddenly drove onto the lawn. A woman who was about 30 years old came out from the front seat and said, "Wow, this place is beautiful. Let's do the barbecue here." It was a family, 2 parents and 1 kid. Winnie hurriedly dropped her hand from Jeffrey's face in a panic. Jeffrey gripped her wrist and dragged her towards his chest. Winnie was sitting on a small stool. Without preparation, she ended up falling into his arms. His warm and muscular chest pressed against her face. She could even sense his chest heaving and smell the familiar scent of his laundry detergent. Her heart thumped. As she came back to her senses, Winnie hurriedly tried to push him again. Jeffrey didn't let her go. He put an arm around her waist. In a deep voice, he whispered into her ear, "Don't move. Do you want those people to recognize you?" Winnie stayed still. She didn't dare make another move because she wasn't wearing a mask. There had been no one else around before. She thought, "I could always turn around. I don't have to hold him, do I?" Winnie raised her head to glare at him. She started to suspect that he was taking advantage of her on purpose. He had done that before, so she regretted coming out with him alone. However, if she pushed him away now, the family would notice. "Cooperate with me. Let's discuss them and make them leave," Jeffrey said in a low voice. He abruptly raised a hand and stroked her hair. After that, he loudly said, "Baby, do you feel better now?" Winnie stayed silent. She felt really awkward and ashamed. "Baby, why don't you say anything? Are you shy? Is it because some other people are around?" Jeffrey coldly glanced at the family while speaking. He put his lips near Winnie's as if no one was watching. "Baby, you'll feel better when I kiss you." Jeffrey moved closer to Winnie while disabling her head from moving by pressing a hand against the back of her head. He didn't really put his lips to hers. Instead, he stopped less than an inch from her and gently breathed into her face. Winnie tried so hard to shrink back, but he pressed her head so tightly that she couldn't move. Thankfully, he didn't really kiss her. Her face was already scarlet. "Don't move. Let's make this look real so they'll feel too disgusted to stay," Jeffrey said to her with a gentle voice. He breathed into her face. His breath had no peculiar smell but gave out a refreshing orange aroma. Winnie spent less than 1 second looking into his bright eyes before she turned her eyes away awkwardly. The harder she tried to avoid him, the worse her face burned. From the angle of the parents and the kid, they looked like a young couple who were indulged in a long kiss. The kid started talking first. "Mommy, they're kissing." "Don't look at them," the woman hurriedly said to her husband. "Let's go." "Why do we have to?" The man raised his voice on purpose and said, "Some young people are shameless nowadays. How can they make intimate moves in public? Why don't they stay at home if they want to kiss each other so much?" Winnie had never been through something like this. She pinched Jeffrey's thigh as hard as she could. The people didn't see her face, but she was too shy to continue what she was doing. "Do you still think you have a way out? Do you want them to stay and see your face?" Jeffrey said. Winnie couldn't argue with that.
Baby, your lips are so soft, Jeffrey said while making some noises that sounded like the two entangled tongues with his mouth.
Mommy, what's that noise? The kid asked.
All right, let's go. The woman's entire body was burning when she heard that question. She dragged her daughter into the car and said to her husband, You can stay if you want, but we're leaving. So shameless, the man cursed with a deep voice, then got into the car as well. He really didn't have a choice. Once the family drove away, Winnie pushed Jeffrey to the grass, then stood up and said, You're such a rogue! Her face blushed a scarlet color. Jeffrey didn't rush to stand up, but sat on the grass, raised his eyebrows, and looked at her with a faint smile and said, Why am I a rogue? I didn't really kiss you just now. You didn't, but you suddenly hugged me and... Winnie couldn't even say the words. She stared at him with red cheeks and continued saying, You put your arms around me. I now suspect you were thinking about some indecent activity when you invited me for the barbecue. If I didn't do that, they'd stay here. The salon is small, so they'd easily see your face. And if we left abruptly, they would get suspicious, right? Under the sunlight, Jeffrey found Winnie's red cheeks especially cute. Why didn't he feel so before? He did nothing but put his arms around her. Yet that made her so shy. Winnie didn't know how to respond. As a girl, she had a feeling that Jeffrey was acting a little strange today. He used to be cold and mean to her, but today he was so different. Anyway, you made that disgusting noise. Winnie buried her head in her hands. She didn't want to think back to that moaning that he just let out from his nose just now, because that would make her feel extremely uncomfortable. I suddenly found there's another profession that suits you. Jeffrey frowned, knowing that she wasn't going to say anything nice. As he thought, she rolled her eyes and continued with, you can be a star in those kind of movies. What kind of movie? Jeffrey failed to understand her at first. That, when he put her 2 forefingers together and said with a low voice, Porn movies? Jeffrey's handsome face immediately darkened. As he stood from the ground, Winnie took a fright and turned and ran toward the river. Jeffrey caught up with her and carried her in his arms. What are you doing? At that moment, Winnie forgot about how shy she felt and clutched his clothes. She was afraid that he might throw her to the ground and break her bones. He was always mean to her after all. What do you think I'm gonna do? Jeffrey carried her to the riverside. He reached out both arms while looking down at her, saying, I'm gonna throw you into the water and feed you to the fishes. The water was right below her. In fear, Winnie hurriedly put her arms around his neck, worrying that he might really throw her into the river. Meanwhile, she begged for mercy. I'm sorry, I was kidding. She did not want to fall into the water. She didn't bring any clothes for a change. Jeffrey liked it when she was holding him tightly. He wished that she would do that more often. I don't think it's a joke, Jeffrey said with a wicked smile. He raised his arms as if he was going to throw her. Winnie closed her eyes and burst into screams. She thought that she would fall straight into the water. She quickly discovered that she wasn't in the water. Instead, she was being held close to his chest. She raised her head. Jeffrey was looking at her with smiling eyes. It was as if he had just watched a good show. You lied! Winnie realized what had happened. She raised her arms to hit him. Jeffrey didn't dodge. He let her fists land on him. Her fist could barely hurt him. He thoroughly enjoyed the moment. Looking at the girl's angry face, he felt as if a cube of sugar was melting inside his heart. He wanted so badly to bury her in his arms and kiss her lips hard. Jeffrey finally understood why there's so many sweet couples in school. He used to think those people were boring. Now he had tasted that kind of sweetness himself. When he spent a short while punching his chest before suddenly realizing what she was doing. She stopped and raised her head to see the man looking straight at her. His eyes were like the summer sky, warm and bright. Looking into those eyes, her brain was blank. Her heart was mildly fluttering. No matter how slow-minded she was, she realized that whatever they had been doing should not happen between them. She hurriedly dropped her hands. Her face was burning. She bit her lower lip and asked, When are you going to let me go? Just put me down. Jeffrey put her down. She turned away, walked to the side, and squatted behind the grill. She started taking out the meat and vegetables they had brought for the barbecue. She had no clue what she was doing. Winnie wanted to smack herself to death. She thought, why on earth did I put my arms around Jeffrey's neck just now?
What she did made them look like a couple. They were only neighbors, even though they had slept together.
I want some grilled eggplant,
Jeffrey said as he squatted beside her. Winnie opened her mouth to say something. When she saw his handsome face, she remained silent and put some eggplant on the grill. She wanted to finish the barbecue and go home as soon as possible. Being with him made her feel weird. She couldn't explain the feeling. She didn't dare to think too deeply about it. Winnie focused on the barbecue. From time to time, she turned back and saw Jeffrey in the river with his trouser legs rolled up. The sunlight poured on his back and the glistening river surface. The scene looked like a peaceful painting. She hadn't had that kind of feeling for a very long time. Her hometown had mountains and rivers. She and her family used to go for an outing together on the weekends. As she was submerged in the memories, someone suddenly patted her on the shoulder. She turned and saw a crab in front of her face wielding its claws. She flinched. Jeffrey heartily laughed. She rarely saw him laughing so happily. "Is bullying me fun?" Winnie asked.
I didn't bully you.
Jeffrey squatted by her side, handed her the crab, and said,
This is for you. I just caught it.
Winnie felt speechless. Why on earth did he give her a crab? She reached out a hand and pinched the crab's shell.
Aren't you afraid?
Jeffrey was surprised. What's to be afraid of? I've seen plenty of these when I was little, Winnie said, then threw the crab at him. The crab swiftly climbed up to Jeffrey's chest. He shivered while slapping the crab off him, gave a moan and put a hand on his belly and said,
The crab nipped me. It hurts.
Really? Winnie blinked, feeling a little guilty. Where?
My belly.
Jeffrey lifted his shirt. Winnie bent over to check out his stomach. She spent a while looking at his stomach but failed to find any wound. Instead, she saw his beautiful abs, not exaggerated but sexy enough to make her want to touch them.
Do you see it?
Jeffrey bent his body. No. She raised her head and unexpectedly looked into his shiny eyes. Did you lie to me? Her heart flipped.
I wanted to show you my abs.
Jeffrey moved closer to her and said with a deep and sexy voice,
Do you like them?
The refreshing scent from him filled her nose. Suddenly, Winnie's heart raced and she was overwhelmed by all kinds of thoughts. At first, she wondered if he had found out about what happened that night. Then she started thinking if he had figured out that she had touched his abs and chest that night. She told herself to stay calm. What are you talking about? Why are you acting weird today? Winnie avoided his eyes. Her comely face burned again as she continued saying, I'm going home if you keep doing this. This time, Jeffrey didn't try to explain but turned her face back and made her look at him. Winnie closed her eyes awkwardly. She didn't dare look straight at him.
How are you supposed to go home? I have the car keys.
Jeffrey curved his lips into a smile. Winnie felt like she was going crazy. It wasn't the first time she spent time with a boy, but she never felt so embarrassed. Jeffrey, what's wrong with you?
What do you think?
Jeffrey threw the question back to her. Winnie didn't know what to say. God, what could she possibly say? Was she supposed to tell him that she felt that he might be doing something inappropriate with her? He was so sharp-tongued. He would certainly argue and throw her into an embarrassing situation.
If you and I get together, you can have my abs and you can have me,
Jeffrey said to her with a deep voice. Winnie was stunned. What did she hear? She put a hand on his forehead to see if he had a fever. Are you sick? She said. Seriously, was this boy the Jeffrey she knew? How could Jeffrey ever say something like that to her? It was unbelievable. Jeffrey knitted his brows and responded with,
I'm fine. You're acting like it was something weird for me to say.
Winnie nodded quickly and said, I am your sister's friend. I'm like an older sister to you.
Yeah?
Jeffrey stared at her without blinking. Winnie became a little unconfident under his gaze. It wasn't going well, was it? She had sex with her friend's little brother. Sure, I am, she said. I see you as a little brother. Jeffrey burst into laughter.
I'm sorry. You're 3 years older than me, but other than that, you don't seem like an older sister to me at all. In fact,
his tone of speaking suddenly turned serious. He moved closer to her, and the manly vibe from him grew stronger. Winnie sat on the grass, turning her blushed face away. He whispered in her ear,
I think you're the girl that needs to be taken care of by me. You're the silly little girl who needs my protection.
Winnie's tender skin suddenly turned so red that it seemed like it would explode. In both surprise and shyness, her brain buzzed, and her heart raced. She felt as if she didn't own her heart anymore. Oh my, what on earth is he talking about? Is he out of his mind? She asked herself. How can you say that to me? Winnie stuttered. For the very first time, she was being pressed down on a lawn by a super handsome guy, and he had told her that he liked her. She had been in a relationship before, but she could not stay calm in such a situation. In fact, even though her last relationship had lasted for years, she was still new to this kind of thing. Ben was the aggressive one in that relationship, but not as aggressive as Jeffrey was.
Are you my real sister?
Jeffrey especially liked to see her panic. Winnie shook her head.
Are you my teacher?
He asked another question. Winnie shook her head again.
So why can't I say something like that to you?
Jeffrey turned his lips away from her ear a little and started rubbing her earlobe with his fingers. Winnie's entire body had softened. She trembled and curled up. Her hands pressed hard against his chest as if she was afraid that he might eat her. Seeing that the girl looked like a scared little bird, Jeffrey smiled and said honestly,
I didn't know that I'd fall for you either, but recently I always find myself attracted to you. Tell me, what have you done to me?
Hearing that, Winnie hurriedly raised her eyebrows in a panic. Looking into his bright eyes, she felt that he was telling the truth. It seemed that he didn't yet know about that night. I didn't do anything to you, Winnie explained.
Maybe you're confused because you like my porridge too much.
Jeffrey paused, then burst into laughter. She turned out to be even more adorable than he'd thought. It was indeed the first time he'd ever fallen in love with someone, but he could already tell the difference between love and other kinds of feelings.
You're right, I do like your porridge, Jeffrey said, but I also want to kiss your lips, touch your face, and hold you. Tell me, why is that? I've never been in a relationship before. Why don't you teach me about it, my so-called sister?
Winnie really wanted to run away. Jeffrey's words were getting more and more unbearably flirtatious. She didn't really want to be a sister at that moment. She even wanted to beg him to stop. If there were 10 grades for blushing, she had already reached grade 9. At grade 10, her facial blood vessels would explode. It might be because of hormones. You're young and you might have strong physical needs, Winnie hurriedly said.
If you know about it so well,
Jeffrey said with a small smile,
your hormones should be affecting you too, right? Why don't we fulfill each other's needs?
Winnie didn't manage to respond to that. If that situation continued, she would collapse. She gritted her teeth and took a deep breath to calm herself down. Then she said, All right. I don't know which part of me has attracted you, but I never thought about the two of us.
I'm aware of it, so I'm not asking you to accept me right now,
Jeffrey said, interrupting her.
I'm saying all this to you because I want you to know that you can start thinking about the two of us getting together. We're good matches for each other. As I said to you last time, in the entertainment circle, a man like me who's immune to all kinds of temptations is very rare. In school, people say that I'm the most handsome boy and that you're the prettiest girl. See, we're perfect for each other.
Winnie was shocked. She finally understood why he had said those strange words to her last time. Was he already fond of her back then? He hid his feelings so deep, or maybe she was too slow-minded. Sometimes two people who are the perfect match for each other don't have to like each other or be together. Winnie spent quite an effort to find her voice. Jeffrey shook his head and said,
I think the first thing two people need to have is this flutter for each other. Am I right?
Winnie paused briefly, then nodded. She agreed.
Don't you have a flutter for me?
Jeffrey stared at her without blinking. He didn't want to miss any expression that might escape her eyes.
Let me explain to you what flutter means. It means you become nervous and your heart races. Do you feel that?
Winnie didn't know what to say.
You do,
Jeffrey said.
Just now you're so nervous that you even stuttered. You blush too. People say your face will redden and your heart will race when you get nervous. That's like the whole package. So I'm sure that your heart is beating fast as well. Ask yourself if you would be so nervous if it was another boy who's telling you that he likes you.
Winnie was going mad. Normally, Jeffrey was so proud, cold, and silent. But now he acted as an expert in psychology. That's because I'm surprised, she explained. I wasn't expecting you to say that to me so suddenly.
When a boy who's 3 years younger than you tells you that he likes you, as a mature woman, shouldn't you react calmly? But you panicked, like a little girl.
Jeffrey pinched her cheeks gently, then sat straight and moved away from her. Winnie instantly found that her breath became smoother. She felt a little annoyed. After all, he pinched her cheeks, and that was so humiliating to her. He was somehow right. As a friend of his elder sister, she should have refused him calmly and reasonably. Why on earth did she panic? She gave it thought and concluded that it was because she had sex with him. So Jeffrey was somehow special in her heart. Whatever you say. Winnie lowered her head, dropped her eyes, and said, I really don't want to start a relationship right now. I just ended the last one. I can tell you that I'm not over it yet.
The so-called ex-boyfriend of yours is from the entertainment circle, right?
Jeffrey asked. What did April say to you? Winnie gave a start.
I am right.
Jeffrey smiled.
She didn't tell me anything. I figured it out. That day when we talked about being with someone from the entertainment circle, you were a little emotional, not like your usual self at all.
Winnie's back started sweating. He was so keen-eyed. She told herself that she must be careful from now on to prevent him from finding out what happened that night.
Let me guess. Your ex-boyfriend must have built a successful career in the entertainment business. So he's abandoned you, right? Or he's with another woman?
All right, stop! Winnie's face turned pale. It had been so long, but opening that old wound still hurt her so much. Jeffrey squatted before her, put a hand on her cheeks, then continued with a deep voice.
I won't do that. No matter how famous I will become, I won't betray you. If you want to sing, I'll help you. If you want to retire, I'll support you forever.
Winnie's heart missed a beat. She raised her head and looked at his glamorous, pretty face. Her eyes were a little unfocused. After being stared at by the silly girl for a short while, Jeffrey couldn't help but bend over, lower his head, and press his lips gently against hers. She had just eaten an orange. Her lips were still scented by the refreshing orange aroma. Winnie shivered. When she realized what was happening, she saw Jeffrey's eyelashes right before her eyes. He had his eyes closed. He looked like a beautiful doll. She hurriedly moved backward, stood up, and ran toward the car. Seeing her run away in a flurry, Jeffrey wanted to laugh. He had done nothing but kiss her lips, yet she was scared so badly. What an innocent, silly girl. Winnie ran up to the car in a panic, then turned back and found that Jeffrey wasn't chasing after her. She sighed with relief, then blushed when she heard Jeffrey laughing. She was aware that, as someone 3 years older than him, her reaction was not appropriate. First of all, how come she'd forgotten to dodge when he kissed her? Second, she was far too flurried when she ran away. She buried her face in her palms, wanting to bury herself.
Stop running or people might see you. Come here, let's have some barbecue.
Jeffrey waved at her. Kissing her was like kissing honey. Jeffrey felt that not only were his lips sweetened, but also his heart. He was more certain about his feelings toward her than ever before. He'd only planned to tell her about his feelings today, not to kiss her. However, she looked so attractive just now that he couldn't help it. Winnie shook her head and asked, Do you think I can still barbecue with you? She worried that he might eat her alive before she had any barbecue.
What can I possibly do to you in broad daylight?
Jeffrey added some charcoal to the grill and said,
Come on, we'll focus on the barbecue. I'll stop talking about these things. I only told you about my true feelings. Why are you so frightened? Unless you're worried that you might fall for me if you stay.
Winnie gritted her teeth. With no other choice, she walked back to him.
Don't forget to cut the eggplant for me. Add more garlic.
After saying that, Jeffrey stretched out on the lawn to eat some fruits. Winnie didn't know what to say. How could he be like that? Didn't he just tell her that he liked her and that he would start pursuing her from that moment on? Was that how he pursued a girl?
Why are you looking at me?
Jeffrey crossed his legs and said,
I just told you that I like you, but don't forget that we're out here having a barbecue because you wanted to thank me for my help.
I didn't say anything. When he turned and continued grilling the eggplant. It was good, actually. She felt less stressed than she had before. It was about 12 when they finally finished the food. They spent a short while resting, then headed back. Winnie needed to fly to another city in the afternoon for an event.
When will you be back?
Jeffrey asked her. In a couple of days, Winnie murmured.
Give me your phone.
Jeffrey reached for her. Winnie shook her head and asked, What do you want? You're already my friend on my social media account. I can't just give you my phone. Jeffrey refused to listen to her but grabbed her phone, unlocked it with her thumb, then dialed his own number. Soon, his phone started ringing. He saved his own number on her phone, then threw her phone back to her. You are so rude, Winnie complained. You can't just take my phone.
Because I found you have your heart sealed so tight, I wouldn't be able to get into your heart if I wasn't aggressive.
Jeffrey glanced back at her. Winnie was stunned. She never thought he could see through her so easily. But I really don't want to be in a relationship right now.
That's an excuse. Jeffrey shook his head carelessly. I used to tell myself that I'll wait at least until I finish college to start a relationship. Well, of course, if I didn't meet a girl that I liked, I could stay single my whole life. But now, as I've seriously fallen for someone, it doesn't count anymore.
Jeffrey got off the car and opened the door for Winnie. She got out slowly.
You have to answer all my calls and reply to all my messages,
Jeffrey said with a warning tone. Back home, Winnie took out her phone and found a new contact. Jeffrey. A simple name. She put the phone against her forehead, feeling a headache. She clearly remembered every detail that happened by the riverside earlier. Jeffrey's words, his lips, everything came to her like a storm. After Winnie left, Jeffrey spent almost every weekend together with Sean, working on the new film. He even went to 2 potential shooting locations. After coming back, he made a trip to the training base that belonged to Sean's studio. Near the entrance, he ran into Richard, who was the groomsman at April's wedding. At that time, Richard was holding a vacuum cup looking into the training site. Hearing footsteps, he turned and saw Jeffrey. With a delighted surprise in tone, he said,
Jeffrey, long time no see. Why are you here? I'm the director of this film.
Jeffrey responded with confusion.
You being here is the weird thing, isn't it? Have you invested in this film?
Sean smiled and said,
His girlfriend and the artists from his company are all in the film. Recently, Mr. Richard comes here almost every day.
Jeffrey was surprised. He looked inside and saw 5 or 6 artists. He noticed an actress among them, just like a girl from the 80s.
Are you talking about Jennifer?
He asked, with his mouth corner twitching slightly. Richard tittered, then put on a serious face.
You can't call her name directly. You need to call her Sister Jenny. Well, you can also call her sister-in-law. After all, your brother-in-law and I are like brothers, so I'm like an older brother of yours.
Jeffrey stayed silent.
So we're close.
Richard put a hand on his arm and continued saying,
We were groomsmen together? I guess fate brought us together. So you'll be nice to my girlfriend during the shoot, right?
The last part of his speech was the point of the conversation.
Sean laughed. Telling him that won't be helpful. Jeffrey is known for how cold-hearted he could be during work. I won't direct a big part of the film, Jeffrey said with a bland tone. My work will be finished in 20 days at most. I see. It's okay. Take care of Jen anyway, said Richard smilingly. Jennifer's a good girl. She's a professional, willing to work hard. She's pretty and generous, never dramatic. I'm sorry, I only care about her acting skills.
Jeffrey interrupted him.
She's not my girlfriend.
Richard's grin froze on his face. This boy is as annoying and unpleasing like Aaron. Why can't he be as adorable as his sister? He thought.
Maybe you don't know when your sister was in a difficult situation, Jen was the only one who helped her. Later on, she asked her sister to be her exclusive voice actress. They're good friends, Richard hurriedly said.
Jeffrey raised his brows.
Yeah?
Jeffrey nodded.
I'll look after her if I ever have a chance to work with her.
Richard's eyes glow.
This kid is really a fan of his sister, he thought. Don't worry, Jeffrey continued. I will require her to deliver the perfect performance so she can improve her skills. If she fails to cope, I will spur her on and try to stimulate all her hidden potential for acting.
Richard paused with surprise, then hurriedly explained,
No, that's not what I meant.
Great! Please don't hesitate to give me any advice. Jennifer walked over and said happily, I'm looking forward to turning myself into a famous and skillful actress through this film.
I get it,
Jeffrey nodded. After saying that, he walked past Jennifer toward the training site. Sean quickly followed behind him.
That kid is cruel, Richard said through gritted teeth. You shouldn't have said that. He might torture you during filming. Don't complain to me when he makes you suffer.
Am I that kind of actress? Jennifer was excited. She held his arm and said to him, You've waited for so long, haven't you? Richard turned to look at her. She was wearing makeup that made her look like a middle-aged woman.
You look ugly this way, Richard said, the corner of his lips twitching slightly.
Say it again. Jennifer narrowed her eyes slightly, erasing the smile from her face.
Richard hurriedly changed his words. You are gorgeous, even though you're actually trying to make yourself ugly. Your beauty dazzles my eyes.
Good boy. Jennifer put an arm around his neck and pulled his head down so she could give him a kiss. Richard was a little shy but also happy. After becoming her boyfriend, he learned that she was a fierce lady. That sweet look of hers was just a mask that she wore. It was great, though. He liked that she was fierce. Jeffrey walked into the training site and saw that almost every actor was working hard, especially Ben. He had cut his hair short and was practicing martial arts with the coach. The coach wasn't showing any mercy. He threw Ben to the ground, but the latter soon got back up. Sean put his mouth near Jeffrey's ear and whispered to him,
Ben works really hard. I heard from the director's assistant say that he's always covered in injuries these days, but he never complains.
Jeffrey gave Sean a glance. The latter hurriedly added,
I'm not trying to speak for him. What I said is true.
Jeffrey fixed his eyes on Ben and said with a slight frown,
He's trying very hard to make changes. Do you feel it too?
Sean put his fingers on his chin and said,
He's a singer. Why has he suddenly started working so hard? It's simple. He wants to bring his career back with all his might, said Jeffrey blandly. He may be popular on the outside, but as a foreign artist, he can't possibly make very much money. If he manages to come back and turn himself into a successful actor, he will make a fortune. You don't need to worry about this film. I think he'll do whatever you want.
Sean clicked his tongue, nodded, and said,
I heard that when his Korean manager came here, they got into a couple of fights. It's said that he gave up on quite a few events to do this training here. Sure, Jeffrey said. The Korean company only wants money. Who cares about his acting skills? I guess he'll soon end the contract with that company. Director Woods? Director Diaz?
Ben walked over at that moment.
How's the practice going?
Sean asked.
It's going well. I've learned some dancing before, so learning these moves isn't very difficult for me.
Ben wiped his red and swollen face with his hand, then asked,
When will my acting lessons begin? Next week.
Sean laughed.
Be patient and take it slow. But I'm telling you, acting isn't like practicing martial arts. I know, I'm only saying that I'll try my best to do better. I can't let the others think that a singer can't be an actor. What I can't stand more is to ruin your reputation, Dr. Woods.
Ben gave a smile. Sean nodded. Hearing Ben's words, he didn't dislike him as much as before. Coming out of the training site, Jeffrey saw Jennifer and Richard sitting together by the window. Jennifer was eating out of a lunchbox while Richard was watching her. That scene was peaceful and sweet. Suddenly, he was a little jealous of them and started to miss a girl.
What? Do you want a girlfriend too?
Sean patted him on the shoulder. Jeffrey didn't answer his question.
Let's go for lunch,
Sean said. Jeffrey didn't move. Sean looked at him confusedly, then heard him respond lazily.
You're right. I just saw those sweet lovebirds, and now I need to have lunch with an old man like you? That's boring.
Sean didn't know what to say.
I think I'm going to go home and have some noodles,
Jeffrey said upsettingly.
Get the hell out of my sight,
Sean said through clenched teeth. On Monday morning, a nanny van sent Winnie to the entrance of her school. Winnie shrank in her seat, not wanting to move. Bob thought she was in a daze.
This is your school,
he said, reminding Winnie.
You can leave now. If you move quickly, you can still make it to class at 10.
Winnie suddenly sighed and said, What events do we have recently? Except all invitations for me, like going to small cities to sing or for fashion shows. Bob looked at her with surprise and said,
Didn't you ask me to reduce your workload as much as possible? Didn't you say that you needed to focus on studying? Why the sudden change?
Winnie didn't respond. She had no choice. If she had too much free time, she might run into Jeffrey. I want to make more money, she said. Bob didn't seem to believe it.
Didn't you say you don't need much money as you're living alone? You said that you used to be short of money, but now that you make so much, you don't even know how to spend it?
Winnie didn't know how to explain. She spent some time to try and gather her words. The others are all working hard. I want to work hard while I'm still young, too.
Don't worry, Tara will arrange your schedule for you. Currently, you should build a solid foundation. As for the other things, you should stay patient.
Bob comforted her. Winnie slowly got off the van, put on a mask, then walked into the school. In the middle of class, she received a message from April. "Are you in school? I'm in school too. Let's have lunch together." Winnie was delighted. She hadn't seen April for a long time. "Sure," she replied to the message. "April, let's go and have roast fish." "Oh dear, I haven't had roast fish for a long time. I'm going crazy." Winnie agreed. Once the class was over, Winnie went to the broadcasting department for April. April was wearing a loose-fitting hoodie, looking like a pregnant lady. No one would say anything about it, though. Many people knew that she had married Aaron. People were jealous of her. After all, Aaron was so rich and powerful. April excitedly gave Winnie a big hug. "You never visit me. I'm so bored staying at the villa every day." "How can you be bored if you're with Mr. Bennett every day?" Winnie said jokingly. "Please don't mention him." April waved a hand with a bitter smile. "He's handsome indeed. But if you see him every day, he starts to look nothing more than a chubby comedy star." Winnie felt a little speechless. "Is it really okay for you to say that about Mr. Bennett?" she thought. At that moment, April's phone started ringing. She spent a short while staring at the phone screen, then answered the call with a warm voice. "Darling, I just left class. I'm going to the canteen for lunch with Winnie." "No, of course not. The food served in our canteen is delicious. I haven't been here for a while. I miss the food here. Don't worry, I won't eat outside. Ever since we got together, you told me that the food out there isn't safe every single day. You're coming here to see me? I don't think that's necessary. Sure. I'll take a picture of our lunch for you later when we get to the canteen." After ending the call, April sighed. "You called to check on me every time I left home. Do you know how miserable my life is? I'm telling you, do not get married at a young age. I buried myself in a grave of marriage at such a beautiful age, and I got pregnant." "Well," Winnie didn't even know what to say. She put an arm around April's shoulders and comforted her. "It's all right. I know sometimes Mr. Bennett tries to control your life even harder than your mom ever did. That's because he cares for you, right? Let's go to the canteen to take a picture for him and then have that roast fish," said April. If Mr. Bennett happens to find out that we had roast fish together, would he kill me?" Winnie was a little worried. "If you don't tell, and I don't tell, who'd ever know?" April dragged her toward the canteen. When they were waiting in a line for the food, many people came to say hi to them. April bought a lunchbox, then quickly took a picture of it and sent it to Aaron. "Darling, the lunch is pretty rich today. We have pork and fish." Aaron replied with a frown emoji. "It looks awful. I bet it tastes awful too." April did not want to continue that conversation. She put away that lunchbox and quickly walked out of the canteen with Winnie, then saw Jeffrey coming toward them. Before Winnie could say anything, April waved at Jeffrey already. Jeffrey blinked, then walked up to the two of them. His eyes quickly scanned across Winnie, then landed on April's face. "Why are you here? Why didn't you tell me?" he asked. "A famous host is giving a lecture in our department today. I think it's important. I spent a long time to convince Aaron to let me come here." April felt a little guilty. She wanted to invite him for lunch too, but he always seemed to have issues with Winnie. Jeffrey frowned and said, "I'm disappointed. I am your brother who was parted with you for 20 years, yet you went to Winnie instead of me when you came to school. Is she more important to you than I am?" April gave a start. She wasn't expecting to hear that from her brother. It sounded like she had hurt his feelings so badly. "It's not like that. We've seen each other last week, right? I haven't seen Winnie since the wedding. Besides, you're my brother, so we'll always have a chance to see each other," April hurriedly explained. "Why don't you have lunch together with us? How do you feel about roast fish?" "Sure." Jeffrey nodded, upturned his mouth corners. April sighed with relief. What she didn't want the most was for her brother to be unhappy. Winnie silently dropped her head. "What a liar," she thought. She would not believe that he was sad because April didn't tell him about her coming to school. The roast fish restaurant was about 8 minutes of walking away from the school. April and Winnie headed toward that place by foot with Jeffrey following closely behind. On their way, Jeffrey suddenly fixed his eyes on a milk tea place and said, "You girls want some milk tea?" April was touched because her brother never made such warm suggestions. As she expected, her brother had become more thoughtful than before, as he had gotten familiar with her and her friends. "Sure, Winnie loves milk tea most." April pushed Winnie on the shoulder. Winnie felt a little awkward. Before, she might consider that as an accident, but now? She sneakily glanced at Jeffrey and found him looking at her as well.
Yeah? I didn't know,
he said with a faint smile. Winnie stayed silent. He was so good at pretending. He used to see her drink milk tea. The three of them walked into the shop. April ordered a cookie milk tea while Winnie ordered a plain milk tea. When it was Jeffrey's turn, he hesitated a little, then said,
"Milk tea. Plain, please."
April curved her lips slightly and said, "Ah, you and Winnie like the same kind of milk tea." Winnie became nervous. She was afraid that April might find out what was going on between her and Jeffrey. Before she said anything, Jeffrey said coldly,
"There's a special offer today."
April turned to the small blackboard on the counter. The blackboard indicated that plain milk tea was half off. Jeffrey, if you need money, you can tell me."
He didn't need to save money like that. Milk tea cost no more than a few dollars. It's not like that. I'm saving money so I can give it to my future wife.
Jeffrey turned around with his back to the two girls. Hearing his words, Winnie lowered her head to look at the tips of her toes, with her mouth corners twitching. She pretended not to hear it. April blinked and wondered if she misheard him. Her brother had actually talked about giving his money to his future wife. He was never so interested in having a girlfriend at all. She grabbed Jeffrey over and said to him, "Jeffrey, do you have your eyes on some girl already?"
No, I saw Richard and his girlfriend a few days ago. I feel that having a girlfriend would be nice.
Jeffrey answered her while watching the shop staff make the milk tea. "Oh, Richard and Jennifer," April nodded. "I hadn't seen Richard ever since he and Jennifer got together. He used to follow Aaron everywhere. Since he disappeared, Aaron started following me everywhere. Let's not talk about the trouble of mine." Jeffrey and Winnie were speechless. "Is that really a trouble of yours? Does your husband know how you feel?" The two of them had the same questions. "You're right," April patted her brother on the shoulder. "If you found a girl that you like, you have to let me know. I have only one requirement for your future girlfriend. It's being kind." Jeffrey responded. The milk tea was ready. Jeffrey handed the cups to the two girls. When taking the milk tea, Winnie somehow felt his fingers stroking the back of her hand, made her feel itchy and numb, as if an electric current was running through her hand. She abruptly drew her hand back and the milk tea fell toward the floor. Jeffrey swiftly bent over and caught the teacup, saving it from falling and splashing all over the floor. "What's wrong?" April asked. Winnie blushed. She couldn't tell April the truth. "There was electricity on the cup. It hit me," she stuttered.
Jeffrey nodded. "It was static, very strong. My fingers are even numb. Thankfully, I reacted fast enough so the milk tea wasn't wasted."
"Autumn is dry and statics can happen a lot," April said knowingly. Winnie sighed with relief. Fortunately, April didn't find out the truth. Jeffrey was too reckless. They weren't even in the restaurant yet. What would he do when they got to the restaurant? She wanted to run away, but could she still do that? When they arrived at the grilled fish shop, Winnie fished out her phone and saw the text message that Jeffrey sent. "Your electric current passed all the way through my heart." Winnie nearly choked on the milk tea that she was sipping on. She was blushing after reading the text message. Jeffrey looked up from the menu. He looked at her and said, "Senior Winnie, what are you reading? Why are you blushing so red?" April turned to look at her, and Winnie quickly kept her phone. She looked so guilty that April was suspicious and grabbed her. "Do you have a new boyfriend?" "No." Winnie shook her head. April was concerned and whispered to her, "Are you back together with Ben?" "Nope." Winnie shook her head, but April didn't believe her and kept staring at her. "I'm really not lying to you," Winnie swore. April whispered again, "I'm not saying that you can't get back together with him. It's your affair anyway. I'm just concerned as your good friend. I don't want you to get hurt again. But if you really can't move past him and if you still love him, I'll support whatever decision you make. I want you to be happy." "I know. We won't get back together." Winnie shook her head firmly.
"What are you two talking about?"
Jeffrey interrupted them.
"Let's order the grilled fish, less spicy version. You're pregnant, you shouldn't eat anything too spicy."
"All right, you're my brother. Your call." The service was a little slow and the voices of the two women filled the room. Jeffrey didn't talk much. He was concentrating on some unpeeled sunflower seeds. He was peeling the seeds without eating them, and April asked, "Why are you saving the flesh?"
"I want to save it and eat it all in one go," Jeffrey replied casually.
April thought that her brother might be bored, so she started talking to him. You said you saw Richard a few days ago?
Yeah, Jennifer and Ben are in boot camp for the new project,
Jeffrey said. Winnie's eyes flickered. April asked, Ben is in Rosewood City now as well? Jeffrey nodded his head. He thought that April was still bothered about the time when his assistant bullied her and said,
Don't worry, I'll give him a difficult time on set later. I won't make things easy for him.
Forget it. I won't have anything to do with him anymore. April was worried that Winnie might be hurt and uncomfortable, and she quickly changed the subject. When the fish was served, Winnie and April had a good time enjoying the food. April was pregnant and she needed to pee often. She went to the washroom every now and then, and Winnie followed her along. After a while, April asked curiously, You're not pregnant. Why are you using the loo with me so often? Winnie laughed. Your brother looks too cold. I'm too intimidated to spend time alone with him. He doesn't bite. I thought you said your new relationship with him now is less tense than before. April asked. Winnie continued to lie. I just think we don't have much to talk about. Winnie didn't push her further. When they were about done, April suddenly recalled something and asked Winnie, I thought you said you were moving at the start of the new year. It's already November now. Has the company mentioned anything to you yet? Jeffrey tightened his grip on his chopsticks. Winnie replied, Yeah, they found a place close to the company. I'm not planning to stay there for long either. I'm going to buy an apartment here in the city and settle in. Sounds good. Rosewood City is pretty nice. Let me and Genting know when you're planning to purchase a house. He has many friends. Maybe we can get a friendship discount or something. Thanks in advance then. Winnie smiled gently. After lunch, Jeffrey paid the bill, and then the three of them headed back to school. Arriving at the school gate, they saw Aaron standing under a tree, wearing a perfectly tailored khaki suit, looking cold, proud, and inaccessible. April froze when she saw him, like a little girl who had failed an exam and accidentally let her parents find out about it. Winnie was nervous too. What should we do? Will your husband think I let you eat unhealthy food? April's scalp turned numb. She blinked. Then she turned to Jeffrey and said, Jeffrey, if your brother-in-law asks us where we had lunch, can you please tell him that you made me eat roast fish? You're not afraid of him anyway. Jeffrey was speechless. He found that his sister was growing more and more shameless after she got married. April tried harder to persuade him. You taking the blame will save a happy family. All right, Jeffrey said and rubbed the spot between his eyebrows. At that moment, Aaron saw the three of them and walked over with a sour face. Darling, why are you here? April said to him smilingly.
I'm doing a spot check. Aaron sneered. Didn't you tell me that you'd have lunch in the canteen? I went to the canteen at 12:30, but I didn't see a trace of you.
April glanced at her watch and found that it was almost 2 p.m. So, have you been waiting here? She asked. You could have called me.
I prefer to catch you red-handed.
Suddenly, Aaron dragged her over, sniffed her lips, then continued saying,
You smell spicy. April, you lied to me. You're full of lies.
April didn't know how to respond. He made it sound like she had hurt him deeply.
I invited her. Jeffrey joined the conversation easily. We haven't seen each other for over a week. I wanted to have roast fish, so I asked her to go with me. I guess she didn't have the heart to say no.
Yeah, I didn't want to go. I tried to tell him the food out there isn't clean. I was already in the canteen, yet he dragged me out for the roast fish place, April said. Jeffrey was speechless. He found that his sister was full of lies.
Do you expect me to believe that?
Aaron's lip corners twitched slightly.
Come home with me. You're not taking the afternoon classes.
No, I'm already here. I'll finish all the classes. April shook her head.
It's just some roast fish. Many pregnant women eat it. Relax, she doesn't eat roast fish every day, said Jeffrey. I'm doing this for her own good. I'm a healthy man. If I can live to 100 years old while she can only live to 80, how am I supposed to get through the last 20 years? Aaron snorted coldly and said, You unmarried people don't understand that.
Jeffrey paused briefly. April was touched. Dear, is that what you're worried about? Relax. I will take good care of myself. But I have to take the classes this afternoon. I'm in my 4th year. There aren't too many classes left. My belly will soon become huge, and I can't possibly come to school then.
No, Aaron responded mercilessly. Those classes are unnecessary for you. Why waste time?
I'm not leaving. April shook her head. Aaron put on a long face. Both of them fell into silence. April sighed a deep sigh. "You guys can leave," April said to Jeffrey and Winnie. Jeffrey frowned slightly. Winnie pulled his arm slightly and said, "Let's go. They'll solve the problem by themselves." Jeffrey glanced at her hand, which was on his arm, and raised his eyebrows. Without hesitation, he followed her and left. Erin thought that she understood and turned around to leave. She realized after trying to take a few steps that she stayed in the same spot. One handsome brow lifted. "Not leaving?" "Who said I was?" April coolly made eye contact with him. Erin's face darkened. "You want to fight?" April laughed, her expression nonchalant. "So what if I do? Must I listen to you about everything after marrying you? You can't control if I go to school, what I eat, and when I go out. I married a husband, but you control me like a father." "April, say that one more time if you dare." Erin gritted his teeth in anger. "And what'll you do?" April stuck her belly out and walked towards him aggressively. Erin took a step back, afraid to bump into her. "Since I've been with you, I haven't had an ounce of freedom. I'm only 24, not 34. You said at first that I could go back to work after giving birth, but I'm seriously suspecting that you were lying to lure me into your trap. I'm also suspecting that all those sweet words you said to me before our marriage were also just to trick me into marrying you. I always let you have your way before because you are my first husband and we were newlywed. But please remember that you're my first. I'm still young and I'm rich now. I can exchange you whenever I want." Erin's body trembled with anger as he listened to her. "You dare?" She actually said that she wanted to exchange him. Unbelievable. Why wouldn't I dare? Let me tell you, I was the one who suggested eating fish today. Do you have any objections? Can you beat me up? The most you can do is divorce me." April continued to advance forward as Erin backed away. April continued, "Let me tell you, I'm an adult. I make my own judgments. I know what I should and should not eat, what I should cut down on, and what I should eat more of. I realize that I've been letting you have things your way too much recently. I've decided that I'm going to move to my brother's place. You can think of all this over at home. After taking a wife, should you listen to her or must she listen to you? If you can't understand, then don't come and get me. I sleep alone just fine. I don't actually need you." She turned to leave after she finished speaking. Erin was stunned for a moment. When he came to his senses, he hurriedly grabbed her arm. "What? You want to forcefully drag me back? Fine. I have a baby in my tummy, though. As long as you aren't afraid that I will struggle too much and hurt the baby, you can do whatever you want to me," April said coldly before shrugging away from Erin's big hands and leaving. Erin looked at his palm, then looked at April's silhouette. He was so angry that he could feel his heart pounding, but after thinking about it carefully, his heart just felt tired. Had his wife eaten too much barbecued fish today and gone crazy? Such a bad temper. If she had gone to stay with Winnie, he would have been able to squeeze in. He would only need to scare Winnie a little and she wouldn't be able to do anything to him. But Jeffrey would be trouble if he couldn't be fazed. Winnie regretted it the moment she entered the school with Jeffrey. If she had known earlier, she would have left by herself. But now circumstances had forced her to be alone with Jeffrey. As they approached a slip in the path, she said, I have to look for a friend in the operations room. You can go ahead without me." "What a coincidence. I'm also looking for a friend there. Let's go together," Jeffrey said coolly, sticking his hands in his pockets. Winnie gritted her teeth. She looked left and right and said softly, "There are a lot of outsiders in the school. Can you maintain some distance from me?" "Am I not keeping a distance?" Jeffrey glanced at the space between them and said, "I'm about 30 centimeters away from you. The perfect distance will be when you walk here and I walk on the other side of the road." Winnie pulled her mask upward while speaking. She worried the others might recognize her. Jeffrey glanced at her and said,
I haven't seen you in 3 days. Do you think what you said is possible?
As Jeffrey fixed his eyes on her, Winnie's cheeks started burning again. She really shouldn't talk to him here. She turned and kept moving forward. Jeffrey leisurely followed behind her and said,
Hold out your hand.
Winnie kept her head lowered and ignored him.
I'm going to hold your hand if you don't do what I say,
Jeffrey threatened her. Winnie was almost losing her mind. What on earth do you want? I was in the headlines last time. There can't be another rumor about me. People will see me as a playgirl. Can't you think about my reputation?
What do you think I'm going to do? Hold your hand.
Jeffrey wore a meaningful expression. His pupils shrank slightly when he responded with,
Do you think I'm that kind of person?
I have no idea what kind of person you are. You are more and more mysterious to me, Winnie said, complaining. Jeffrey chuckled and said,
Come on, I won't hurt you. Hold out your hand.
His intimate tone of speaking made Winnie's cheeks turn red. There was no close relationship between the two of them. Why did he talk to her like that? To end the conversation sooner, Winnie had no choice but to hold out her hand. Jeffrey took out a wrap of tissue from his trousers pocket, spread it, then poured a handful of sunflower seeds on her palm. Winnie was surprised. She knew about sunflower seeds. Earlier, during lunch, Jeffrey was peeling them the whole time. He said that he would eat them all the time. She didn't see the sunflower seeds again after she and April had returned from the bathroom. She thought he had eaten them, but unexpectedly, he was keeping them. Do you want me to make you a sunflower seed pancake? Winnie asked. Jeffrey burst into laughter. Sometimes he wanted to open up her skull and see her brain. I don't know how to make sunflower seed pancakes, Winnie said, her eyes turning away from him.
All right. They're for you. I think you know that,
said Jeffrey coldly. Winnie felt a lot of pressure. She wished that a sunflower seed pancake was what he really wanted. But I don't like sunflower seeds, she said.
I like them. I'm giving what I like to you.
Jeffrey looked down at her. The look in his eyes suddenly turned gentle and warm. Winnie's heart raced. For a moment, she was distracted.
And,
Jeffrey continued saying,
where are you moving to next year?
Winnie pressed her lips together and stayed silent. Jeffrey looked at her for a few seconds and smiled again.
It's okay. I'll go wherever you go.
Jeffrey, Winnie honestly didn't know how to respond to him. Don't do this.
Call me Jeffrey again,
he gave her an order. Winnie stayed silent. Why would I listen to you? Would you call me sister if I told you to? Said Winnie unhappily. Jeffrey smiled and then said,
Baby.
Winnie gave a start. She hurriedly looked around. Thankfully, no one was looking at her. Are you crazy? She said. I just told you to call me sister. Jeffrey nodded and said,
Silly little girl.
Winnie was speechless. She honestly didn't know how to communicate with him in a normal way. She buried her face in her hands. Her face blushed scarlet. I gotta go, she said as she trotted away. When school was about to end, Jeffrey received a text from April. I fought with your brother-in-law, so I'll stay with you for a while. Mom's place is too close and Winnie is afraid of him. Jeffrey frowned unconsciously. If April moved in, wouldn't that hinder him in chasing Winnie? On the other hand, if April moved in, it might increase his interactions with Winnie, especially since she had been avoiding him recently. Considering this, he immediately replied,
Okay.
April, if your brother-in-law looks for you, you must be fearless and stand up for me. Jeffrey,
don't worry. You're my sister and he is that freebie you get from topping up your prepaid mobile SIM card. I understand this very well.
Jeffrey,
what do you want to eat tonight? I'll cook.
April was touched and felt very warm. She had thought that going to her brother's house would inconvenience him, but look at how understanding he was. April, just make whatever you're good at. I'm okay with anything. Jeffrey,
I'll give the keys to you later. You can go home first with Winnie and I'll go to the supermarket to buy groceries.
Jeffrey's mouth curved upwards. This was exactly what he wanted. After class, Winnie stayed in the library for a little while with April before getting dragged back to the condominium. She had wanted to avoid walking with April in case she bumped into Jeffrey again. However, April was pregnant and she had to worry about her. Luckily, Jeffrey was not back yet when they arrived. April prepared to cook. She was already 8 months pregnant. How could Winnie let her wash the rice? Winnie immediately helped her cook the rice. A little after 6 p.m., Jeffrey came back carrying quite a few groceries. April ran over to take a look and was pleasantly surprised. Not only were there mantis shrimps, but there were also cucumbers, chicken, yogurt, ice cream, and fruit. Go and watch television and leave the kitchen for me. Jeffrey rolled up his sleeves, removed his watch, and put on an apron and said to Winnie, "Please help me wash the fruit." "All right." Winnie nodded. If she didn't wash them, April would definitely come to do it, so she couldn't refuse. "I thank both of you. It's such a privilege to be pregnant." April smiled as she sat on the sofa and ate the yogurt. Although the space in the open kitchen was big, there was only one tap, so the two of them would inevitably bump into each other while washing things. When Winnie was washing strawberries on the tap, Jeffrey came over with the cucumbers. He purposely grazed her fingers with his. Winnie blushed and looked towards April, who was in the living room, only to see her concentrating on her phone and not looking at the kitchen. It was too far away anyway, and she wouldn't even have been able to see anything, even if she'd been looking. Winnie could only give Jeffrey a frustrated glare and say softly, "Behave yourself, or else I'll tell your sister." "Sure." Jeffrey nodded immediately, lowered his head, and smiled gently. "I'll also tell her that I like you." Winnie immediately shut up. "If you became my girlfriend, I'd buy good food and cook for you every day. You just have to make seafood porridge for me. That's all." Jeffrey noticed her soft ear. He had just touched it a few days ago. It was soft that he really wanted to kiss it. He realized that the desire in his heart was getting stronger and stronger. He wished he could carry her to his bed right then and treat her well. Faced with his advances, Winnie didn't dare stay for too long and hurriedly washed the fruits. There was only a honeydew melon left to cut. Jeffrey took the fruit knife immediately and said, "I'll cut it. If you cut your fingers, my heart will ache." Winnie honestly felt that she might die of suffocation if she spent too much time with him. She glared at him and said, "Why didn't you worry about that before when you were at my place?" "I didn't realize I liked you back then. When I like someone, I tend to be really nice to her." While speaking, Jeffrey smoothly peeled the melon, getting rid of the seeds. He did it quietly and concentratedly, with his eyes dropped. His neat and elegant movements made him look like an artist. Looking at him, Winnie's heart somehow thumped. She hurriedly picked up the washed fruit and left. In the living room, April rested her chin on a palm. She heard Jeffrey's voice and sighed. "I'm suddenly jealous of Jeffrey's future girlfriend. He's so good at cooking. Unlike him, Aaron can be a disaster in the kitchen. Apart from that, he is so blindly confident. He always believes his food is extremely delicious and makes me eat all of it. So painful." Picturing it, Winnie felt sorry for April. As a 20-year-old man, Jeffrey was indeed outstanding. He was young but was already a director who had a bright future, and he was perfectly handsome. He lived in a large apartment alone, without any housekeepers. However, the apartment was always clean. It must have something to do with the way he was raised. As for Ben, Winnie didn't even know if Ben knew how to cook or not. Their relationship started in high school. It was pure campus romance. They didn't have much to do together. Most of the time, they merely had short dates after school. Sometimes, only through the little things in life could one fully understand another person. She hadn't known Jeffrey for long, but at that moment, she suddenly felt that, compared with Ben, she knew Jeffrey more. 1 hour later, Jeffrey was finished cooking the food. He made spicy duck meat, boiled fish with some vegetables, steamed eggs with cucumber salad. April hurriedly took a picture of the food, then posted it on her social media. "My brother made me a rich dinner with love." After the post, she started to eat her food with satisfaction. The fish had thorns and were harder to eat. April had a hard time separating the meat from the bones and was stung a few times. Instantly, she started to miss the guy who always did the hard job for her. She shook her head quickly and told herself that she was not allowed to miss him. "Let me help you." Winnie looked at her and laughed. "I think you're spoiled by Mr. Bennett. You weren't so clumsy before." "I'm fine." April hurriedly waved her hand and said, "Ignore me. I'll soon get into the swing of it."
"I'll do it,"
Jeffrey said. He picked up a piece of fish, removing the thorns within 3 seconds. Winnie and April were both stunned by how fast he did it. "You really are good at this," Winnie murmured. April nodded and said, "Jeffrey, when you have a girlfriend, you have to peel her shrimp." My heart leapt when your brother-in-law said that he'd peel all my shrimp for the rest of my life. You know, women are easily touched by details.
"Yeah?"
Jeffrey quickly glanced at Winnie. Winnie worried that he might offer to help her, so she hurriedly picked up the fish and directly bit it with her teeth. Seeing her awkward reaction, Jeffrey showed a smiling look in his eyes. During the whole dinner, Jeffrey removed thorns for April. Winnie labored her way, ending up with aching fingers and lips. She did it way more slowly than the other two. All of a sudden, she was a little jealous of April. "Why don't I have a good husband and a good brother?" she asked herself. After dinner, Winnie washed her hands at the sink. A lot of oil had gotten in between her fingers, so she washed seriously. Suddenly, a warm body pressed against hers from behind. Her body trembled and she looked up. In the mirror, she saw that Jeffrey had appeared behind her without making a sound. His arms reached around her waist and gently grabbed her hands that were still rinsing off under the running water. "What are you doing?" She couldn't believe this. He was completely hugging her from behind. Jeffrey's head bent down to rest beside her ear, his lips close to her as he laughed quietly.
"You're my guest. I have to help wash my guest's hands thoroughly."
"Thank you, but no thanks. Let go of me now." Winnie unsuccessfully tried to pull her hand away. The closeness of his lips to her ear made her toes tingle. Her small hands were enveloped inside his big ones. The water was falling onto both of their hands. She was completely wrapped up in his chest. Her nostrils were filled with his scent. Winnie was so nervous that her breathing became uneven.
"See? Your hand was scratched by the mantis prawns in so many spots."
Jeffrey's fingers gently grazed her tiny injuries, his tone indulgent and captivating.
"If you become my girlfriend, I'll do all this sort of work for you. Next time, my sister will be the one envious of you."
"I wasn't envious of her," Winnie quickly denied, but when she raised her eyes, her gaze collided with his black eyes. His eyes seemed as if they could look straight through a person's heart. Her heart was thumping. Jeffrey's mouth curved as he washed each of her fingers carefully. In his embrace, Winnie's brain became fuzzy. Her body felt hot all over as she washed her fingers for who knew how long. When she finally let her go, he said softly,
"After my sister goes to sleep for the night, I'll bring supper for you."
He turned away to do the dishes. Both of Winnie's legs felt soft as she walked away from the sink. April glanced at her. "Winnie, why is your face so red?" "Is it?" Winnie's heart skipped a beat. Maybe it's because I'm too hot. I'll go back to shower first." "All right." After she left, April opened her WeChat moments. Many people had replied to her post. A pretty orchid. "April, I can make all of these too, but you never posted it on your social media. Are you unhappy with my cooking?" Sylvia. Sister-in-law, why didn't you invite me over? Please, God, give me a younger brother like this. I don't want an elder brother like that." Richard.
"Jeffrey is amazing."
Melissa. "Now I miss my son's cooking a little."
Aaron. "Come back immediately."
April snorted and replied to everyone except Aaron. After she was done, she posted again. "My brother helped me eat fish. I feel so blessed." After seeing the post, Aaron threw his phone away. He hurriedly called Sister Emily over and threw a tantrum.
"Look at what others have made. Why have you never thought of cooking such an elaborate meal?"
Sister Emily felt wronged. I did suggest it, but you were the one who said that if I cook a complex dish like this, you would definitely be made to clean them again. It is too much of a hassle, so you told me not to. Aaron was stunned for a moment. Nonsense. Am I that sort of person? Sister Emily looked at him quietly without saying anything. Aaron coughed lightly under her stare. I might have said it, but it must have been because work was too tiring at the time. Call April now and tell her that you would make special mantis prawns for her so she will come back quickly. Jeffrey's only a kid. How would he know how to take care of a pregnant lady? Oh, you don't need to worry about that, said Sister Emily. Jeffrey's young, but he knows a lot, especially when it comes to food. Last time when he had a meal with us, we talked about what pregnant women should eat and what they shouldn't. Oh my, he is very... Before Sister Emily could finish, Aaron's eyes landed on her, making her feel chilly. She hurriedly changed her words and continued with, He really made me worry. Seriously, he's only 20, right? I'm calling April now. She put the call on speaker. Once the call was answered, April's voice was heard. Sister Emily, I know that young master is sitting right beside you. I'm telling you that this won't work. I really had enough of him this time. I'm doing good at my brother's place now. Tell him to leave me alone. Aaron grasped the phone and said, April, don't push this too far. I'm doing this for your own good, am I not? I'm worried about you. I don't want you to have an accident. I don't want you to eat too much unhealthy food. It might cause a health problem. You need to come home before tomorrow. I'll forgive you for eating outside without telling me today. Are you ordering me? April sneered. You have become really arrogant since we got married. I've told you that you need to think about it. Should you listen to your wife or should your wife listen to you? April ended the call directly. Aaron said, This egg represents my love. April had completely given up on this breakfast before she even opened the third layer. In it was milk powder that hadn't been dissolved in hot water on top of walnuts, dried fruits, and almonds. April was completely speechless. So after all that, her breakfast was just 2 eggs and a cup of milk. Aaron explained immediately. I wanted to cook French toast and pancakes, but these cannot be left out for too long. I'm not good at cooking porridge either, so I could only bring the milk powder over. Jeffrey walked over to take a look and was completely stunned. Compared to this, he felt that he had really spoiled Winnie. She should come and take a look. He hurriedly took out his phone and took a photo. What are you doing? Aaron frowned. Nothing. If I have a girlfriend in the future and she quarrels with me, I'll take this out and she will know how well I treat her by comparison. Jeffrey returned to the kitchen again. Aaron pursed his lips. He coughed once and curled his fist up. What I made might be a little shabby, but it is nutritious. Even if what other people make is delicious, is it as nutritious as mine? That's right. April squeezed out a smile. She told herself that it was all right. If he had tried to make a sumptuous breakfast for her, it would probably have been extremely disgusting. Jeffrey cooked 4 bowls of noodles. When April came over, she was taken aback for a moment. There are only 3 of us. I thought you'd ask Winnie over. Jeffrey raised his head nonchalantly. The 2 of you became inseparable the moment you met. Winnie said that she's skipping the first period to sleep in. April shrugged. She sent me a text last night. You and Aaron should just eat more. Jeffrey's head lowered and a dark gloom fleetingly glinted in his eyes. Aaron commented after finishing his noodles. It does not taste bad, but it's not as flavorful as what Sister Emily makes. April, let's return to the villa. April looked at him with irritation. Not as good as Sister Emily's cooking, yet you ate 2 bowls in one sitting. Luckily, Jeffrey suddenly seemed distracted and didn't pursue the matter. Thinking about how her husband was usually unpopular with people, April decided to move back to the villa out of consideration for other people. Winnie received a message from Jeffrey when she was lying in the bed. It was a picture of breakfast, including a boiled egg, a fried egg, and a bag full of milk powder. The text message was, "This is the breakfast that Aaron prepared for my sister. Now do you think that I'm nice to you? Cherish what you have." Looking at the picture, Jeffrey's chicken wings, yogurt, and all kinds of desserts popped into her mind. Of course, she felt that Jeffrey was much better than Aaron. Then she shook her head quickly. "No, I'm not so into food," she told herself. April had moved back to the villa. Afterwards, Winnie tried very hard to avoid Jeffrey. She was even extra careful when she went out of the apartment to throw away the trash. However, he caught her outside her door when she came home the next day. He put one hand on the wall behind her, keeping some distance between them, while disabling her from running away. Winnie groaned inwardly. Her heart was nearly in her mouth. "Have you installed a surveillance camera at my door?" she asked. She was so careful, yet he still caught her. "No, but I've been sitting here and reading a book the whole time." Jeffrey scratched his ear and said, "I don't talk to you at school, but at home I have to see you." Winnie paused with surprise. It was 9 p.m. already. Had he been sitting by her door all this time? That would not be comfortable. "Winnie, you're avoiding me." Jeffrey frowned slightly. "Do you think you can always hide from me? Next week, Director Woods' film will be launched. You need to be there too. We'll see each other by then." Winnie didn't say anything. She would not only see Jeffrey, but also Ben. She didn't want to go at all. However, she had signed a contract, and according to it, she needed to take part in all of the advertising events about the new film. Also, Tara wanted her to go, as that might allow more people to notice her. "I don't want to attend an event like that." As Winnie stayed silent, Jeffrey continued in a demagogic tone. "But I worry you might get bullied if I'm not with you." Winnie raised her head and looked into his dark eyes. Her heart skipped a beat. "I never made any enemies. Who would bully me?" "Silly." Jeffrey pinched her nose and said, "There will be a party after the launch. At the party, people will come to you and make toast. As a pretty girl, you can easily become a target." "It won't be the first time I've attended a party like that. I know how to protect myself. Besides, I think you'll probably be the most dangerous man to me at the party." Winnie poked his strong chest and said, "Can you stay away from me?" She was going crazy by what he was doing and saying. His chest was nearly pressed against hers. Jeffrey grinned, then abruptly took out a cup of yogurt with a straw in it from the pocket of his sports coat. "Drink this and I'll let you into your apartment." "I've had some yogurt earlier tonight," Winnie lied. "Come on, this is a new flavor. I promise that you'll like it." Jeffrey coaxed her with an intimate tone. Hearing those words come from a boy who was 3 years younger than herself, Winnie wanted a hole to crawl into. Her face started burning. She only wanted the conversation to end soon. As she reached toward the yogurt, Jeffrey dodged her hand, then put the straw near his lips and said, "Let me feed you." "No!" Winnie felt like she was going to lose her mind. "Do you want this to continue?" Jeffrey moved closer to her and lowered his head further. Winnie hurriedly held the straw in her mouth. It was ice cream flavored yogurt. She didn't know where he found such delicious yogurt, but she finished the cup in one breath. Only then did Jeffrey's eyes light up with happiness again. "Actually, you were very young and also pretty. It's normal for you to be chased by guys. There's no need to avoid it so much unless you don't want to experience what it's like to be courted until you're in your 30s or 40s. Not that that age is no good, but as the saying goes, you're in your prime now." Winnie was stunned for a little while. She had never thought about dating again. Jeffrey went on, "I know that you've been through a relationship that failed, and perhaps for the sake of that relationship, you wasted a few years. But you can't possibly use the remaining years of your prime to memorialize that too. I met this foreign old granny once. She said that what she regrets most in life is never having loved without a care in the world at least once while she was young. Winnie, you once left home for the person you loved. You've been crazy in love before.
Why have you become so scared of it now?
When Jeffrey finished, he took a step back, turned around, and returned to his room. Winnie looked at his closed door, dazed. Another week passed. The country was gradually transitioning into winter, but the weather in Rosewood City was still warm. Thursday was the day of the press release for Director Woods' new movie. It had been 5 years since his last movie, so the release immediately attracted the attention of countless media outlets from all over Rosewood City. As the singer, Winnie also had to go on stage. Early in the morning, she was personally fetched by the nanny van to pick out her clothes. Because it was for an important event, Tara personally accompanied her as her agent. "Tara, what do you think about this dress in a refreshing blue?" the stylist asked. "This is the latest design by Bottega Veneta." Tara threw a magazine toward her. "Did water just get into your brain? Winnie is just a singer, not the lead actress. If she wears something that eye-catching, it'll look as if she wants to steal Jennifer's thunder. Let's take that black one. It's low-key but sophisticated." When she finished talking, she looked at Winnie. "What do you think?" Winnie bemusedly looked up. Tara's head started to ache. "You have been preoccupied for a while. How can you take part in today's press release in this state? Have you memorized your responses? You better not forget anything when those reporters are interviewing you." "I won't. I was just thinking about some things just now," Winnie said with a forced smile. "After the press release ends, there's an interview. The reporters will definitely ask you about the scandalous photo of you when you were caught with Marvin. Be careful not to say too much." Tara reminded her of this repeatedly until she sent Winnie to the hotel where the press release was being held. Winnie was led into the building by the staff. The holding room was a large suite on the top floor. When she entered, there were already more than 10 people standing inside. Some of them looked familiar and were already chatting together. Maddie walked over to her carrying 2 glasses of juice. "Have something to drink. It'll be a while before the press release begins." "Thank you. Is the main cast all here yet?" Winnie pretended to be nonchalant while asking the question. "Yes, they're all upstairs for their individual interviews." Maddie smiled. "Everyone?" Winnie was confused. "Even the third lead?" "His production team has been promoting this as the keystone project in his transformation. So the media's paying him a lot of attention." Maddie shrugged her shoulders. "It must be good to be good-looking and young. You can change your style whenever you want. In my time, everything depended on whether or not you had acting skills." Winnie heard the unhappiness in her words and smiled, saying nothing. Bass singers. Mr. Ben has received so many awards. He also has regularly been in the top 3 on the top charts in the last 2 years. He is, without a doubt, an ability-based singer. "Yes, that's true indeed." Leonard quickly nodded his head and yawned. Just in time, Sean walked over to them. He hurriedly went over to hug Sean. "Director Woods, please rearrange how we're going to walk on the stage later." Sean was sharp and could tell that the atmosphere was off. When he saw that both Ben and Jeffrey were present, he instantly guessed half of what had happened and said hurriedly, "Of course you will be with Jennifer. Look at how high her heels are. You must support her." "Of course." "How about me?" Ben asked. "I don't have a partner to go on stage with yet. How about me and Miss Winnie? She's also in black and we're about the same age." Before Sean could say anything, Jeffrey interjected lazily. "Shouldn't singers walk together?" Sean nodded. "Yes, Ben, walk with the actress." "All right, I'll talk to her about this." Ben turned around to say to Winnie, "Please add me on your social media." When he finished speaking, he turned around and left. "You should follow me too." Sean looked at Jeffrey. As Jeffrey followed him out, Sean looked at him as if he was about to cry. "Little brat, can you please fight less with Ben?"
There were so many people watching just now, and you made things so difficult for him. Yeah? Why? Jeffrey nodded and said, Before I came here, I told myself that he's actually not so bad. But I couldn't help but dislike him every time I saw him. I guess he's just too displeasing. Sean's mouth corner twitched slightly. You'll be taking an interview later, he said. That reporter will ask you about what you think of the actors and actresses. You need to pretend to like every one of them in front of the press. Don't worry about that. I will. Jeffrey nodded. Sean, of course, was still worried. He sighed and continued. I'm saying this for your own good. If you criticize Ben in public, his fans will curse you to death. I guess among the whole crew, he has the most fans, and his fans are the craziest. No, Jeffrey responded unhappily. Before the launching, when she was preparing to go on the stage, Winnie received a WeChat message and a text. Jeffrey, do not make Ben your friend. Keep a distance from him. He is not a decent man. Don't forget how he hurt my sister. Ben, wait for me. I have a lot to say to you. Winnie felt so troubled. At the beginning of the press conference, she walked onto the stage arm in arm with Maddie. The main target of the press was the leading stars of the movie, but Winnie and the others still needed to say something. A reporter abruptly asked her a question. Winnie, you are the newest artist among the crew, right? Are you under pressure? Winnie nodded and responded with, Of course. I do feel pressure to work with so many experienced artists. Thankfully, I'm a singer, so I don't need to do the acting. I'm coping with it. I'm excited to see so many idols that I could only see on TV before. The reporter asked everyone questions who came on stage. When Jeffrey came up, a reporter asked him, Director Diaz, you are as handsome as many superstars. Have you thought about being an actor? Not interested. Jeffrey answered the question calmly and blandly. Hearing his simple answer, the reporter felt a little embarrassed. However, he reacted quickly and said, You are a big shareholder of this enterprise. Have you thought about making a film for your own company? Jeffrey frowned slightly, then responded with, I'm not sure. They have hired a CEO. I might direct a film for the company if they need me. To lighten the atmosphere, the MC started a series of games. Ben picked his game out of a hat, and that was squeezing balloons with a female artist. As the MC named his game out loud, the audiences were stirred. I wonder which girl Ben will pick, said the MC jokingly. Wow, they are all beautiful ladies. Ben gave a bitter smile and said, Yeah, it's hard to make a choice. You guys are being too nice to me. The MC laughed. Ha ha ha. Pick carefully. Ben glanced at the group of actresses, then said, I'll choose Winnie. Winnie and I are the same age. The other ladies are like elder sisters to me. I was worried they might be afraid of balloon explosions. The MC laughed. Ha ha. Then you aren't worried that Winnie is scared of popping the balloon? Ben smiled. She's young and she needs to be braver. The MC joked. This isn't very gentlemanly of you. Be careful or you won't be able to find a girlfriend. Ben's female fans beneath the stage instantly started screaming wildly, We are willing to be his girlfriend! Everyone on stage laughed. The MC said, Ben's fans are indeed supportive. Then Winnie, Ben invited you. Are you willing to accept? Winnie had already recovered from the shock and said jokingly, Of course I'm willing to accept. After all, it is Ben, the guy in every girl's heart right now. I have the heart, but I'm not brave enough. I'm afraid of his friends' envy and jealousy. Indeed, the MC nodded with a smile that wasn't quite genuine. If you're sure. Ben immediately took the microphone and said, If you don't do this with me, then I really don't know who else to ask. Please don't pick any middle-aged women like us. On the side, the third female lead jokingly said, I'm terrified of balloons. Winnie laughed tiredly.
All right. Actually, to be frank, I've been too afraid to even step on a balloon since I was a kid. Ben's gaze glinted with something complicated as he looked at her. At that moment, Jeffrey, who had been standing off to the side, suddenly stepped forward.
Since everyone else is afraid, I'll squeeze it with you.
The MC was stunned for a moment.
The requirement is for a female artist. I know, but isn't it more exciting to have two handsome young men hug each other to pop the balloon? Would you guys like to see that?
Jeffrey's complicated bad boy smile broke out on his devilishly handsome face, causing the fans below the stage to scream wildly. Although not everyone knew his name, as soon as he stood next to Ben, that aura of cool haughtiness he projected started being discussed by many fans. Yes, we want to see! The girls started screaming. The excitement in the place had reached its highest point. The MC smiled.
Everyone here is a fan. Ben, look at how everyone is looking forward to seeing you and Jeffrey.
Ben's gaze met Jeffrey's, his mouth suddenly curving in a sinister smile.
With all your screams, even I'm getting excited.
In his heart, he was rather confused as to why Jeffrey would volunteer himself for this. After all, the two of them never saw eye to eye. Unless Jeffrey wanted to do something to him. But then he thought that, no matter how strong his backing was, Jeffrey wouldn't dare pull some trick on stage. After all, Ben's fan army was strong, and Sean wouldn't allow Jeffrey to act rashly either. With that thought, he relaxed. He only regretted that he couldn't be up close to Winnie and hug her. The two of them had to burst 10 balloons. Jeffrey took 2 balloons and placed them between the two of them. With the large men hugging each other, bang! The balloons popped, causing the audience to scream wildly. After all, both of them were incomparably good-looking. One was handsome while the other had a cool charisma. In the fans' world, that was full of forbidden charm. Winnie stood silently off to the side. Looking at the two of them, she suddenly felt very extra. However, she was still rather grateful that Jeffrey had volunteered himself in her place this time. After all, she knew how much he disliked Ben. After the 10 balloons were popped, the MC interviewed Jeffrey.
How does it feel to hug our Ben?
Jeffrey faintly smiled.
I still prefer to hug women.
Jeffrey, you're so good-looking! Female fans screamed. The MC asked Ben,
How about you?
Ben also smiled.
I also prefer the feeling of hugging women.
The MC laughed.
The other ladies still have a chance then.
After the balloon game, a few other games were played. Almost everyone on the stage participated. Winnie was lucky enough to avoid any more awkward situations. After the launching, some artists needed to accept individual interviews upstairs. The artists who had interviews went upstairs together. Winnie moved slowly behind the others. As she arrived at the elevator, both Ben and Leonard were already in the elevator with many others. Ben stood by the door, waved at her, and said,
Come on.
I'll wait for the next ride. I don't want to squeeze you guys.
It's all right,
said Ben with a gentle voice. As he said that, she noticed there were many senior artists in the elevator. Winnie had no choice but to get into the elevator with Bob. Ben pressed the close button.
Wait!
A guy in a bluish-gray suit came over. Before the elevator door closed, Jeffrey darted in and squeezed himself together with Winnie. Winnie was facing the outside. When Jeffrey came in, her chest was suddenly pressed against his. It wasn't the first time something like that had happened. She immediately felt awkward as she worried that Jeffrey might have the same reaction as he had the last time. At that point, Ben moved slightly backward and said to Winnie,
Come over here.
Winnie hurriedly moved slightly toward him. Jeffrey glanced at Ben and found that he was looking down at Winnie. He was probably looking at her face or collarbone. Winnie wore a low-cut dress. A tall man could easily see her cleavage. He narrowed his eyes slightly, then he made some effort to move between Ben and Winnie. He said to Jennifer, who was in the corner,
Jennifer, when will your interview end?
In about half an hour, Jennifer said, answering the question. Why?
I'd like to talk to you about your role,
Jeffrey said blandly.
Do I need to be there?
Leonard hurriedly joined the conversation. He was the male lead in the film, after all. He had always been very serious about his work.
No need,
Jeffrey replied quickly. A couple of seconds later, he sensed that Leonard might be feeling embarrassed because of what he had said, so he added,
I only like to talk to pretty ladies.
People could tell that he was making a joke, so they all laughed. Winnie glanced at him with surprise. Jeffrey rarely cared about other people's feelings when he spoke to them, but he seemed to care about Leonard's feelings. It was reasonable, though. Leonard was an award-winning actor. Both his acting skills and moral quality were impeccable. As the elevator arrived, people walked out, returning to their rooms. The reporters weren't there yet. Winnie's feet were killing her. She hurriedly took off her high heels while the makeup artist was giving her a touch-up. Soon, the reporter would be there to give her an interview. She had to wear delicate makeup.
You shouldn't have refused to play the balloon game with Ben,
said Leonard regrettably.
That was your chance to get into the headlines. You need that kind of exposure.
I was worried that his fans might attack me. Winnie's eyes dropped.
That might happen.
Leonard didn't continue the topic. In another room, Thomas looked at him and said,
You're nice to Winnie.
Ben was looking at his phone. Carelessly, he responded to Thomas,
So what? Are you going to question me again for getting too close with some woman?
Thomas knitted his brows and said,
No, I think this time it's a little different. You're treating her special. I think everybody can tell.
Only then did Ben raise his head and say lazily,
Today's the press release for the new movie. There should be something for the news outlets to write about. How else would it make it to the headlines tomorrow? Is that really so? But just now in the lift,
Ben suddenly put down his phone and stood up, his gaze dark.
If I waited for someone from the production team, then must that mean that I like her? She was walking over, and if I insisted on closing the door, what would other people think? They would assume I was looking down on a newly debuted singer.
Thomas was a little unhappy about being stared at.
She is a newly debuted singer. She can't compare to you at all. There's no need for you to lower yourself. If you continue to be like this, I can replace you,
Ben said impatiently.
It's because of you that I had a conflict with April. Everyone thinks that I throw my weight around and that I'm difficult to work with. Even Jeffrey sees me as an eyesore. Do you know that Jeffrey is a shareholder and that his brother-in-law is Aaron? Because of that incident, I've had to apologize over and over again since entering the production team. I am popular now, but I'm also just an idol who only knows how to throw my weight around. Is it wrong that I'm trying to change for the better?
Thomas's face turned ugly.
Isn't the main reason you want to change me that you want to break the contract with the company? You were unhappy with the company's arrangements and came over to shoot director Woods' movie. You insisted on becoming some ability-based artist and set up a workshop in the mainland. You even took on some private events behind my back. Did you think that I didn't know? What if I break the contract? After all these years, how much have I earned for your company? And how much have they given me in return? Ben asked coldly. Thomas was incredibly mad. Back then, when you signed the contract in black and white, why didn't you say anything? When you managed to hook onto our young mistress, why didn't you say anything?
Ben stood up and looked at him, his gaze cold.
That's right. When your young mistress came to find me, she told me that I could either be with her or she would never let me make it. Did I even have another choice? All right, I think you finally said what you really think. Thomas nodded. Ben, don't think that you're in a stable place now. It's not easy to dissolve a contract. You have to prepare a huge sum of compensation. Also, consider, if people find out about how you got here, do you really think that you will be as well received as you are now? Then don't blame me for publishing the naked photos of your young mistress in bed.
A cool chill settled on Ben's handsome face. Thomas stared at him intensely.
Go. Ben narrowed his eyes. I don't need you anymore.
You have guts. Thomas nodded and turned around to leave. The sound of the door being slammed reverberated in his ears. Ben balled up his fists tightly. Only God knew how long he had waited for this day. He had intended to bear with it for a bit longer, but he couldn't take it anymore. By the time Winnie finished all the interviews, it was already 2 o'clock in the afternoon. She changed into another outfit and rested for a while. She still had dinner with the production team to go to that night. She only had her eyes closed for 10 minutes when the doorbell rang. Bob went to open the door. When she saw the man standing there, she was stunned. "Mr. Ben?" Winnie was in bed but had not completely fallen asleep. When she heard those 2 words, her heart skipped a beat. She never thought that Ben would come over so blatantly. He had always been very careful in the past.
"Is this Miss Winnie's room? I need to talk to her," said Ben straightforwardly. "Is this your MV? I heard that you're planning to release a new album this year." Bob reacted quickly. "No," Ben interrupted him. Winnie worried that he might tell Bob about their relationship, so she hurriedly walked out and said, "Let him in." She didn't even have time to put on shoes. "Oh, okay." Bob was confused. He wondered if they knew each other, but he had never heard about it. "I want to talk to Miss Winnie in private." Ben made another request. Bob didn't know what to do. Winnie put a hand on her forehead and said, "Bob, please wait for me outside." "All right." Bob walked out of the room with confusion. He didn't dare go far, but stayed by the door. Winnie was in the room alone with Ben, and that made him a little worried. The door slammed shut. Winnie's heart raced. She was never so nervous to face Ben. But still, she forced herself to calm down and said to him, "Ben, I think I've made it clear to you. Let bygones be bygones. Don't come to me again." Ben slowly walked to her. His pretty face wore a deep bitterness. "Who have I been working so hard for? How can our relationship end just because you said so? Winnie, we are not like the others. I understand that you have been through a lot of difficult situations and lonely times these years, but none of that will happen again. I've decided to end my contract with the Korean company. We can openly be together after I finish this film." Winnie paused briefly, then soon figured it out. "Why wait until we finish the film? You're going to make our relationship a topic so you can win attention for the film, right?" "This film already has enough attention. I don't need to do that. I just need to fight a legal battle with the Korean company. I don't want you to get involved." Ben walked up to her and looked at her affectionately and said, "Winnie, do you know how excited I was to see you in this circle? I've been waiting for this day for far too long. I love you. That never changed. I never had another woman in my heart. If you don't believe me, we can get married tomorrow. Then you can bring me home to your parents. Let them know that you didn't choose wrong." Winnie raised her head to look at the pretty man in front of her. She was in a daze for a moment. "Many times I fantasized about you saying those words to me. But Ben, I wanted you as a clean, decent man. You are no longer the boy I knew." "Is this because of what April said to you? Do you believe her?" Ben said with disbelief. "Do I have to say it out loud?" Winnie's nails sank into her palms when she started talking. "People are talking about you, Ben. You are with the rich girl who owns your company. That's why the company put so many resources on you. That's why you achieved whatever you have today." She looked at him sadly and continued, "I really wish that our relationship ended in that phone call and that you'd never come to me, so I wouldn't be saying this to you face to face. All these years you've been having the best resources. You even managed to get into this film crew so easily. Ben, I didn't know as much as I do now before I became a part of this circle, but now I hear a lot of things." Ben's expression changed slightly. "Many people are slandering me. They're jealous of me. They are making up lies. Is the trust between us so fragile? Yeah. Even my friend slanders you. The whole world is slandering you. Hearing him try to explain, Winnie was more and more disappointed. Why did you become like this? You did it. Yet you don't even dare to admit what you've done. Ben's temple throbbed. Winnie's throat was also choked up. Ben, if you tell me honestly, I might not look at you with disgust. I'm not stupid. During the long time that we were dating, you were careful to the extreme. Which celebrity is as careful as you are? I am also a celebrity now, but I'm not like you. This is because you got together with their young mistress and the people around you are watching you. Right? Don't say that anymore. Ben suddenly interrupted her, his face pale and tired. Winnie looked at him quietly. Ben tightened his fist. After what seemed like countless internal struggles, he lowered his head like a child who had made a mistake. I'm sorry, Winnie. I thought that you would never find out. Winnie's eyes instantly rimmed red. She turned around and hugged herself. Despite the heater running in the room, it suddenly felt extremely cold. Is becoming famous really that important to you? You can even give up on your baseline. Ben looked at her and was extremely anguished. I don't want that, but I want to be with you. Winnie, you came from such a good family, and when I wanted to be with you, your parents objected to it. Your dad even came to see me personally. He said that my family's condition was too poor, that our statuses don't match. He wouldn't accept me. He also said that he looked down on musicians like me the most. He said that we're good for nothings. He told me to leave you sooner and not hinder your future. Ben paused for a moment and then said, But you gave up everything and left to follow me. You even stopped talking to your parents. I felt very guilty in my heart, so I swore to make something out of myself to bring you back. I wanted to tell your parents that I am good enough for you, that I am capable of taking care of you. Winnie was surprised. My dad went to see you? Ben nodded. After the university entrance exams, your dad came to see me. I got into a top-ranked university, but your dad didn't care. Your entire family is highly educated and your parents are artists. My parents are just small business owners. They work themselves to the bone all year and still earn less than what your parents do in a day. He made me realize the true difference between the rich and the poor. That's why, Winnie, I can only be good enough for you if I am popular. Only then can I make your family agree to let us be together. Winnie was stunned. She really hadn't known that all these things had happened. Ben had his pride. She knew that. She could imagine how heavy a blow her father's words had been to him. He continued to say in a low voice, When I went to Korea, I had no prominent background or social standing, no matter how hard I worked. Even if I practiced dancing until my joints gave out, until I pulled all my muscles until my voice was gone, and worked harder than everyone else by 10 times, by 100 times, people still didn't spare a glance for me. Every time you called me, I always said that I've been well, that I've been complimented, that the company was giving me a lot of attention. Those were all lies. I even had times when I was so broke that I ate only one meal every 3 days. I was broke, Winnie. Winnie cried. Her black lashes were wet from her tears. She still remembered some of those things. Back then, she had felt relieved. Ben's voice also became hoarse. He choked up a little and said, And then my company's young mistress took a liking to me. She told me that either I could leave quietly or get together with her. You had so many expectations for me back home and you were working so hard. How could I come back empty-handed? So you slept with her. Winnie finished his sentence with regret and sadness. But I never thought about a future with her. She can't affect me anymore. Ben placed his hands on Winnie's shoulders. Baby, please forgive me.
It wasn't easy for us to reach where we are today. Forgive? Winnie felt lost. She raised her head, and with misty eyes, she tried to see that familiar face of his more clearly. She tried to touch him, but once her fingers moved, her mind pictured him rolling on a bed with another woman. She had lost her virginity too. Once, they were both young. They carefully promised each other the best of themselves. Yet that was long gone. A while later, she nodded. Okay, Ben. I forgive you. Ben smiled excitedly. However, what she said next froze a smile. But we can't be together anymore. Winnie pulled his hands off her shoulders and said, Imagine, if one day I slept with another man to obtain a better life, would you tolerate it? Ben's pupil shrank. He hurriedly shook his head and said, You wouldn't do that. Winnie, your family's rich and you're proud. You'd never do something like that. Yeah, my family's never short of money, but in order to be with you, I gave up everything. In my earlier college years, I sang in a bar for money, but I was happy. Some people offered me things to sleep with them, but I rejected them without hesitation. I'd rather exhaust myself with work every day. I wouldn't be able to start my career as a singer if I wasn't so lucky. I wouldn't give up on my bottom line even if I couldn't become a singer. I don't care if I'm popular or not, because I can always do another job. The entertainment industry was never my only choice. Winnie said sadly, I'm sorry, Ben. We've chosen two different paths long ago. We're not meant to be together. I'm glad that you told me the truth eventually and helped me realize I'm not entirely a failure. You can leave now. I wish you a bright future, and I'm sure you'll find a better girl than me. No! Ben panicked. He reached out and pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. Winnie, don't be so sure. Give me a chance. After saying that, he lowered his head to kiss her. Thinking about him and another woman, Winnie couldn't help but dodge his kiss. Ben, I'm gonna scream if you don't stop. My assistant's outside and there are reporters downstairs. Letting people know about this will do you no good. Ben froze. Winnie pushed him away and said, Leave. Ben didn't move but stared at her with red eyes. Behind the door, Bob was getting anxious. Ben had been in the room for quite a while. Bob recalled Winnie's strange reaction that occurred every time she heard Ben's name and figured they might know each other. They weren't together, were they? The idea made Bob excited. If it became news, the entire entertainment circle would be stirred. It would be shocking. At that moment, Jeffrey walked over from the other side of the hall, with one hand resting in his trousers. He made the hallway look like a fashion runway. Looking at him, Bob was dazed. Why are you standing there? Jeffrey asked as he walked up to him. Oh, I'm waiting for someone. Some reporters are coming to interview Winnie, and I think they might not know her room number. While speaking, Bob looked around. Jeffrey mustn't know that Ben was in Winnie's room. Jeffrey crossed his arms before his chest and said with a bland tone, Just tell them the room number. You don't have to wait here, do you? That's true. Bob stretched out lazily. Since we're out here anyway, let's wait a little longer. Jeffrey was silent now. He was staring at him. As a director, he thought that his acting was terrible. Bob wanted to cry. He didn't know what else to do. Suddenly, the door opened and Ben walked out. His handsome face was stained with a smudge of pink on his cheek. Jeffrey was stunned when he saw him. Jeffrey could clearly see the stain for himself. He remembered Winnie wearing that same shade of lipstick earlier that day. What were they doing? How did her lipstick end up on his cheek? It was apparent to him. His hands were twisted into fists within his pockets. Bob could see it and he shuddered. He wanted to say something to him, but didn't know what to say since Jeffrey was right beside him. Ben was not in the mood to make small talk either. He gave Jeffrey a polite nod before walking off. Bob was thinking about the lipstick smudge when Jeffrey whispered in his ear, You should go wipe it off.
There are so many reporters around. It would be catastrophic if they took a picture of him like that.
Bob sprinted after Ben immediately. Jeffrey looked at the door. It was left ajar. He pushed it open and walked in before closing the door behind him. Winnie thought that Bob had returned already, so she quickly turned away and rubbed her eyes. "Don't ask me anything. I just want to cool down by myself."
"What do you need to calm down for?"
a man said with a cold voice. Winnie was shocked. When she turned, it was Jeffrey standing behind her. His handsome face looked sickly and his expression was stern. "Why didn't you knock?" She was having a headache. She had just sent away the previous man after all. She just wanted some time alone to calm down. She wondered if he bumped into Ben when he left the room earlier. Jeffrey didn't reply to her. He was busy inspecting her from head to toe. Her eyes were teary and streaks of tears could be seen on her face. Her lips were painted the same shade as the stain on Ben's face. She had intimate contact with Ben. Jeffrey felt a fire burning inside him when he thought about that. He felt hurt and his heart ached. At that press event, he caught Ben staring at Winnie several times. He'd obviously been paying her special attention when he asked her to join the game. He had also been taking care of her in the elevator. He thought that Ben might have a crush on Winnie. Either that or he was just making use of her for media attention. It seemed like he was completely wrong. He hadn't been in a rush to court her in the beginning. Slow and steady wins the race. He was prepared to chase her slowly. But he might have been too slow. What if she ended up with another man? Jeffrey couldn't imagine the consequences. He might lose his reasoning and do something unimaginable.
"What's your relationship with Ben?"
Jeffrey was drawing closer to her now, his eyes clouded with rage. Winnie was scared. He had seen Ben walk out of that room then. Although he was younger than her, he was tall and exuded a menacing vibe. We don't have anything to do with one another. He was just here to talk to me about the MB. Winnie averted her gaze.
"You're lying."
Jeffrey gripped her wrist, pulled her to himself, and looked at her aggressively.
"Your face is covered in tears. You cried for another man."
His tight grip caused Winnie pain. She felt annoyed. "Even if I did cry for another man, it has nothing to do with you." Her words pierced into Jeffrey's heart like a sharp sword. He never felt so angry and restless in his whole life. He made her snacks every night, yet she said it had nothing to do with him. Did she think that Ben was better than him? Or was he never as important as Ben to her?
"Okay, since you said it has nothing to do with me, today I'm going to make your business mine,"
Jeffrey said with a frosty voice. He lifted her and threw her onto the bed. Before Winnie could react, Jeffrey laid his tall and strong body upon her. "Jeffrey, don't make me hate you," Winnie pressed both her hands against his chest. She was already very upset as she had made everything clear with Ben, and she had learned the true reason why she had to break up with him. Now, Jeffrey was bullying her again. Somehow that sadness exploded in her heart, and the tears gushed out of her eyes uncontrollably.
"Why are you crying? I haven't done anything yet."
Jeffrey had seen many women cry in front of him. 90% of the women that he had turned down had cried. Therefore, women's tears could barely affect him. But this time, seeing Winnie cry made him feel panic and helpless. It was the first time. "You are bullying me! You all bully me!" Winnie cried louder and louder, not only for her lost love, but also for herself. Jeffrey paused for a few seconds, then his pretty face grew cold again.
"Did Ben try to hurt you just now? What did he do? That bastard! I'm gonna kill him!"
He quickly got up from the bed. Winnie hurriedly pulled his coat and said, "He didn't."
"He didn't? I saw your lipstick on his face. Did he try to kiss you?"
said Jeffrey angrily.
"I'm telling you, only I can kiss your lips."
Winnie never thought he'd noticed the lipstick on Ben's face. She hadn't even noticed. She was too sad. Hearing Jeffrey's bossy tone, her pale face reddened, and her heart leaped a little. He didn't kiss me. I fought back. My lips brushed across his face. It's not what you think." Winnie dropped her head and murmured.
So he did try to kiss you.
Jeffrey nodded. He sounded calm, yet a tsunami seemed to be breathing underneath his voice.
What a monster. I like you, but I never thought about kissing you against your will. Does he think that he can do whatever he wants because he's a superstar now? Does he believe that no one in the world can bring him down?
It's not like that. Winnie worried that Jeffrey might make it big news, so she tried to explain.
You're not allowed to say that about you and him. Nothing is going on between you two,
said Jeffrey bossily and determinedly.
You have nothing to do with each other anymore, not even if he's your ex-boyfriend.
You guessed that? Winnie was surprised. I had hoped no one would have guessed. Her tone of speaking let Jeffrey knew that he was right. A stream of bitterness burst in his heart.
He was in your room while Bob was guarding the door and you cried. There was definitely a story between you two.
Winnie frowned. She looked a little sad. She should have expected him to find out, given how smart he was. He could have easily figured it out, but just piecing together the information he already knew. He'd probably already guessed that her ex-boyfriend was from the entertainment industry.
Jeffrey, don't tell other people,
she said after a long while.
Why? Are you still trying to protect him?
Jeffrey could tell that she was upset. He felt extremely uncomfortable and jealous of Ben. He had never been jealous of anyone before, but he was jealous that Ben had once had all of Winnie's love and attention.
Winnie, Ben has someone supporting him. He probably found a sugar mummy.
Stop! Winnie interrupted him, agitated. She sounded harsh and emotional. Jeffrey was stunned. He was indignant and disappointed.
You're raising your voice at me over a man that cheated on you?
No! Winnie bit her lips. She knew she was being too harsh. I just didn't want to hear all those things. Jeffrey, this is my past relationship. I devoted myself to it once. Besides, I've already made things clear to him. We don't owe each other anything anymore. It's all in the past.
Is it really over?
Jeffrey suddenly pushed her onto the bed. He brushed his fingers lightly across her cheek. She had makeup on and her tear streaks were visible.
Why are you crying then? Can't you bear to let him go?
Am I not allowed to grieve the loss of my relationship? Forget it. You won't understand anyway. You've never been in love. Winnie was a little flustered when he touched her face. Being crushed underneath him on the bed, she was in a precarious position. Winnie tried to get up, but he pushed her down again. She was annoyed. Jeffrey, what are you doing?
I've never been in love before, but I love you now. I'm jealous of Ben. I'm jealous that you're crying over him.
Jeffrey didn't try to conceal his emotions at all.
I like you, Winnie. I don't want you to cry over anyone else in the future. You shouldn't be in a room alone with Ben. I wasn't a part of your past, but I want to be a part of your future. Your tears belong to me now. Everything belongs to me.
He was being bossy and forceful. His eyebrows crossed in determination. Winnie's head was buzzing. When she regained her senses, she was blushing. What crazy talk is this? Get up! Jeffrey sighed and lowered his handsome face to press his lips against hers. It was so different from that time in the grass field. His kiss was full of purpose and intensity. Winnie's brain went blank. So much had happened that day. She had managed to dodge Ben's kiss, but she couldn't dodge Jeffrey, especially in this position. She was on the bed and he was on top of her, restraining her. She had nowhere to hide. His kisses were like a storm. He was kissing her hard and a little clumsily. Soon he found his bearing and he entered her mouth, his tongue dancing with hers. He was like a bandit in the middle of the night, robbing her of her senses. Winnie was out of breath. She felt like a small boat barely trying to keep its balance on the rocky waves. As her mind drifted to the night they'd spent in the hotel, her breathing quickened and her heart thumped. Her body became softer and softer. Jeffrey couldn't help but kiss her harder until someone knocked on the door. Winnie's heart gave a start. She turned her face with an effort to avoid the kiss. Bob, it must be Bob. Her lips trembled intensely as she couldn't control it.
Let him stay out there quietly.
Jeffrey turned on the bed, making Winnie lie on him. Winnie automatically raised her head, but before she could say anything, Jeffrey had pressed on the back of her head, bringing her lips to his. Her heart skipped a beat and her face blushed scarlet. Jeffrey looked straight at her. His dark, bright eyes shone with a dazzling light. His thick and beautiful eyelashes gently flapped before her eyes. Winnie fell into a daze. Before she came back to her senses, his tongue entangled with hers. Winnie felt like her head was swelling and that his scent invaded her body through every single pore, devouring and occupying her crazily. Unwittingly, her body became softer. She lay on his chest, pressing her body against his. She had changed into a dress for the press conference and after party. It was a thin dress, exposing a small part of her back, making her look very sexy. Jeffrey's hand landed on her back. Her milk-smooth skin made him feel thirsty, as if his entire body was on fire. He wanted to tear her dress into pieces. But it wasn't the time yet.